Common Spirit Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: the Utah Valley University campus is gradually opening back up following the murder of Charlie Kirk. Today, campus employees are coming back, and the university is offering in-person mental health counseling for victims as well. The FBI is also trying to help victims.
Everyone who was there is a victim.
FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles says they have set up a virtual family assistance center for anyone needing support. Today will also be the first day people can start picking up belongings that were left at the crime scene after the shooting. Pickup starts at 2 o'clock at the Young Living Alumni Center. Political activist Charlie Kirk's American Comeback Tour will continue without him. His widow, Erica Kirk, confirmed it. There is no word on who will speak at the tour or what security will look like. It's scheduled to stop at Utah State University on September 30th. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates this week. The jobs market is slowing down, and cutting interest rates has been one tactic used by the Fed to jumpstart hiring.
The Fed is widely expected to cut interest rates by 0.25%, meaning it gets a little bit cheaper to borrow money. Think lower credit card APRs, less expensive car loans. This can also impact mortgage rates, which have been moving lower in anticipation. The average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage hit its lowest level since 2024 earlier this month.
ABC's Rebecca Jarvis reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 104 points and is hovering just below 46,000 at the moment. Coming up, we got cooler temperatures coming this week. But today will be a little bit warmer. We'll check KSL weather next. KSL News Time 9:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back pain get worse as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100% pain-free.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, walked out of the store. All the pain was gone. My back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you and schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com.
This is an announcement to all United States vehicle owners who own a 2003 or newer vehicle with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire, or no warranty coverage at all. With a struggling economy and the cost of living on the rise, Endurance is now offering an affordable, low-cost vehicle coverage plan to the general public. As of today, you could be one of millions of drivers that now may qualify to have your vehicle protected under this coverage and have all future covered auto repairs paid directly to the repair shop for you. You pick your plan. You pick your deductible. You even pick the repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental coverage is included. Get your vehicle protected now and save your wallet from costly vehicle repairs. A toll-free number has been established for you to call for your free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number to call is 800-266-3845. Again, that's 800-266-3845. 800-266-3845.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security, Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Heather Kelly, Jason Jones.
That's okay. No problem. It's still a little bit crowded and slow eastbound on the Pioneer Crossing and 2100 North down in Lehigh, headed over towards I-15. Once you get to I-15, though, you're going to be pretty good until you get around the point of the mountain. Then it's still a little slow through that Bluffdale area, maybe again at the South Interchange, and then from the 201, the 201 interchange up into downtown Salt Lake City. Otherwise, though, most of the rest of the delays that we've had and all the accidents are cleared out at this point, so you shouldn't have to worry too much anywhere else. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly cloudy with highs in the 80s. Tomorrow will be same, but slightly cooler with highs in the 70s. And then it will actually warm back up by Thursday. We'll be in the 80s towards the end of the week. Right now, it's 64 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Was it naive of me, Holly, to leave here Friday thinking that Monday we'd be talking about something different than Charlie Kirk? No, it's not. It's a story.
It was naive of you.
Yeah, it was incredibly naive. And I suppose sort of short-sighted. There's a lot to uncover here, and there's a lot that's been done, a lot of talk back and forth since this horrible murder that occurred last week. Not the least of which is Utah Valley University is set to kind of come back to normal if that's possible.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it is possible, right? I mean, it'll be a different normal. I'm pretty sure it'll be subdued. And today they're starting to have their employees come back. Students won't come back until a little bit later in the week. But we have KSL News Radio's Adam Small down on site at UVU. What are you seeing today, Adam?
Morning, guys. Yeah, so today it looks a lot more normal, but the feeling is still different is the best way I can sum it up. So I've seen plenty of employees coming in, parking, heading back into the office. The yellow police tape was blocking off a ton of the campus when I was here last week for obvious reasons of being a crime scene. That tape is now down. So the motion and movement on campus looks a lot more normal. But, I mean, if anything, I've talked to a couple employees who told me they still just feel in disbelief and they feel very somber about and they just can't believe what happened and are trying to kind of push through the day and hopefully things can be business as usual. But there's also still a giant memorial that was set up, kind of started up on Friday on the front lawn by the roundabout. It has grown quite a bit. There's been plenty of people even coming in today to either just stand by, pay their respects, or drop more things off at that memorial. But in terms of school employees, I mean, they're back, but still obviously just trying to come to terms with what happened here last week.
Describe that memorial for us, Adam. I mean, where is it in relation to the campus, and what does it appear to be made from?
Yeah. So if you drive in the main entrance of campus off University Parkway and you head to the roundabout, you head south off the roundabout and at one of the parking lots here, right by the water fountains where we'd been set up a lot after the days following the shooting. On that lawn in this parking lot, right off the roundabout, there's red ribbons on the trees. There's American flags. There's flowers. There's other photos and posters and things like that. Just I think there may also be some stuffed animals. I'm kind of looking at it from a distance right now. Just balloons, all sorts of things. Just people making this nice little makeshift memorial for Charlie Kirk. And they set it up here, I think, also just because a lot of where the shooting happened, I mean, turned into a crime scene, and it stayed that way as the tape was up for a few days afterwards. They put it in a place, one of the few places people could so easily get to on campus, where they could easily just drop something off and create a place they could pay their respects.
Adam, I was seeing some discussion earlier that when that crime scene tape went up, that, and especially after people fled, that there were a lot of things left behind. Have you seen people come back to pick up maybe some of the belongings they left behind?
Actually, that is, it's partially started already. From what I've been looking at the university's website, they had personal belonging pickups begin over the weekend. They have these little set periods of time you can do that. But today's supposed to be the first time people can come in and actually pick up things that were left within the crime scene. So say if you were at the event or near the event, whether it be at the campus courtyard or the Lossie Center, pretty much anything that was left behind in the chaos and the panic was stuck there while investigators examined the crime scene. Today is supposed to be the first time you can come by and start to pick some of those things up now that the crime scene's been processed. From what I've seen on the university's website, they're supposed to start doing that today at 2 o'clock, and I believe that's at the Alumni Center that you can pick those things up. But from what I've been reading, it looks like they want people to call ahead of time. I don't know if that's maybe so they can, pick out which specific items people are going to come in looking for. But it's supposed to be at 2 o'clock today. People can go into the Alumni Center and start to pick those items up for the first time.
Adam, you mentioned that the police tape, that yellow tape that they use, has largely come down. Does that include the actual crime scene itself, the quad? Is that all open now?
From what I'm seeing, yes. I've seen some vehicles move in and out. I've mostly been staying over towards the memorial this morning. But from what I'm seeing from a distance, it looks like small university vehicles that need to, access parts of campus, like maintenance vehicles. I'm not seeing that tape anymore. So from what I'm seeing, it looks like you can move through campus pretty seamlessly. I think pretty much all that tape has come down compared to when I was here last week. A lot more stuff was blocked off.
We've been speaking with KSL News Radio's Adam Small. So, Adam, what are some of the resources that people coming back today, so employees of the university, what are some of the resources they can expect?
Yes, so the university for the last couple of days also has been offering in-person mental health counseling for people who obviously witnessed the tragedy last week. And it'd be a good question to ask, too, but I imagine there are other people that didn't actually witness it, but were just here on campus and just dealing with the trauma of seeing a panic and a chaotic scene like that. I've talked with at least one person today who talked about, I didn't hear the gunshot. I didn't actually see what happened, but you could tell that they were really struggling with the fact of just what happened here in general, just the chaos, and there's some trauma that comes with that. But at the very least, victims, people who witnessed this, or people just struggling with this, they can get in-person mental health counseling. Again, that's at the Alumni Center. It's been happening the last couple of days, and it's going on again today from 10 to 4. So anyone, students, faculty, employees, anyone that needs that support can get that. The university is also set that up for at least the next couple of days. I don't know how long it's going to be going on. I know it's, according to the website, at least going on until Wednesday. But again, you can come in and get in-person mental health counseling.
Thanks. That was KSL News Radio's Adam Small. And by the way, the FBI's Salt Lake Division did announce a virtual family assistance center.
The FBI has established a virtual family assistance center that can be found at www.fbi.gov/Orem Victim Assistance, where those impacted can access resources. Additionally, an intake information form can be completed by anyone who attended the event. You may be contacted by the FBI. If your personal items were left at the scene and you were not able to retrieve them during our operating hours, there is a personal effects form on the Virtual Family Assistance Center website.
Here's more from FBI Salt Lake City Special Agent in Charge, Robert Bowles, speaking about the Victim Services.
The Victim Services Response Team consists of a multidisciplinary team of agents, analysts, victim specialists, child adolescents forensic interviewers, and facility dogs. These are Wally and Taz. They're specially trained to provide support in crisis during mass violence incidents or following mass violent incidents. We know that this has been a traumatic experience for those who were on campus when the shooting happened, and it's been traumatic for the entire community. The FBI is committed to providing assistance and support. And on a personal note, everyone who was there is a victim. And if you were there, I encourage you to come seek assistance with us so we can help you in any way that you may need.
Tyler Robinson, the alleged suspect in the death of Charlie Kirk, is being held in a special unit at the Utah County Jail, and formal charges are expected tomorrow. We'll talk about what that means when we come back.
Cars for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Mom, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotion. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. Consequently, they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Dial pound 250 and say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, everything you need and nothing you don't.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
At Peach Windows and Doors, they help homeowners stay in the homes they love while upgrading to the elegance, efficiency, and natural light of today. With hundreds of 5-star Google reviews, their clients know Peach Windows and Doors deliver what they promise.
I wanted to replace standard-size French doors with a large custom sliding door. The update required checking a weight-bearing wall. Plus, I wanted a couple of different styles of windows. The new sliding door created a much brighter and open look. Peach was so helpful along the way with recommendations and ideas, and the installers were efficient and respectful of my space. I was thrilled with Peach Windows and Doors.
Give your $1 million home the $1 million feel it deserves. Don't wait on that someday project. Visit Peach Windows and Doors Salt Lake Showroom. Schedule a free in-home visit. You can also explore at peachwindowsanddoors.com or just call them at 801-566-1255. Peach Windows and Doors, where amazing home transformations begin.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
The suspect in the death of Charlie Kirk is currently being held in the Utah County Jail. Formal charges are expected maybe as early as tomorrow, but certainly this week against Tyler Robinson, Washington County resident who's being held without bail in suspicion of the death of Charlie Kirk.
So I have a question for you about a special unit. What does that mean? Actually, before we start, let me do this. In the haze of all of the information that was flying online, I said he was a registered Republican last week. He's not. That was my mistake. He is not registered with any party. His parents are registered Republicans. So I apologize for that.
Right.
Thank you for listening.
Right. Very good. So he's in a special unit. So I don't know exactly. I would surmise there's two reasons. One of potentially two reasons. One, he may be on suicide watch. Who knows what his current mental health condition is after everything that's gone on here, and I don't know that from any inside information at all. Or they may be concerned that he could be a target among other inmates at the jail, and so they're keeping him. And when they say a special unit, that tells me probably solitary, that he's alone.
Yeah.
And most jails have a mental health unit where some people will go at least for the initial part of their term when they're sitting there waiting for charges to be filed. He may be in something like that, but it's not unusual. It's not really a problem, and it's not anything that I would be necessarily concerned about. But under the circumstances, it would make sense that he would be held away from other prisoners for a little while and under some level of watch. I heard
on a morning news show, it might have been ours, that he part of the suicide watch potential is that he has to go through a mental health evaluation. Is that typical for people
Absolutely
like this?
Typical,
Okay.
Yes. So inmates, when they're taken into a jail, will have some level of either mental health or physical health examination.
Okay.
Sometimes both.
Okay.
Just to make sure they're okay. Sometimes, as you can imagine, a lot of people are booked into jail, and this doesn't apply to Robinson, under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or maybe they're injured in the course of a fight. So yeah, they'll be held and sort of watched for some period of time by the administration and the medical team at the jail. And Utah County Jail is a very good facility.
So I mentioned at just as we opened this segment that I took information online to be true that wasn't true, and it's one of the things I've learned is that it is really easy to do because there can be things that look like they're legitimate, but we don't actually know. And I think we're learning more, but I would also say we still don't know a lot. So Governor Cox went on Meet the Press yesterday to talk about the investigation. He says Robinson hasn't been cooperative, but people close to him have.
So what we have learned specifically is that this person did not have any knowledge, was shocked when they found out about it. When he found out about it, the suspect has not been cooperating so far, and so we're getting all of this information from family members, again people around the suspect, and then the forensic information that we have, which is confirming everything and more than what we were able to share in that initial press conference.
Can I ask you another question then?
Yeah.
So my understanding, right, and we both had a chance to look at the charging documents, but my understanding was that he confessed to a family member. I thought it was a family member, and that they were able to convince him to turn himself in, and yet we're hearing he's not cooperative.
Yeah, I think what the governor is talking about is that he hasn't been cooperative with law enforcement. Since he's been taken into custody, he's probably been under some level of interrogation. He may have invoked his right to an attorney or his right to remain silent. I think that's what the governor's talking about. But yeah, he was cooperative in a couple respects that you just mentioned. One, he turned himself in, and two, he did appear to speak with, it may have been a family member or a roommate or a religious leader or something. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's been cooperative in the sense that he's helped law enforcement put the case together. But he it would make sense that he isn't. And I assume by now, since he's been in jail now for 4 days, that he's probably had a visit by an attorney, either from the public defender's office or a private attorney that maybe his family or someone had contacted, and was just told, look, your better course right now is to remain silent, and that anything you say could be used against you. So in that respect, you would expect that an individual in custody would abide by that advice. And there may be a time when his cooperation can help him, but right now I don't see how that occurs. And I'm not absolutely not advising people not to cooperate with police, but the old saying, anything you say can and will be used against you. In a case like this is kind of an understatement.
Yeah. Okay. I have it. So I have another question.
Sure.
So it felt like before the suspect was even taken into custody, we had multiple political figures basically saying the death penalty will be invoked. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I watch legal shows sometimes. Does that make it more difficult for prosecutors to even seek the death penalty? Have they contaminated the pool? Have they said we've issued judgment before this guy's even been caught?
Jeff Gray, the Utah County Attorney, is the best. This couldn't have happened in a county where there's more competent prosecution, and I say that because I feel sorry for the county attorney. But to answer your question, the jury pool's been tainted just by the media on the case. I mean, it continues on and on. And so someday this case will almost certainly go before a jury of 12. And they will have the decision of deciding whether or not Robinson committed the crime. And second, because it could potentially be a death penalty case. And that hasn't been decided yet. I think the county attorney's weighing that, although it seems to be likely that it will be a death penalty case. The jury would decide also the sentencing phase. So he's been in custody for a couple days. Under Utah law, they usually have 72 hours to make charging decisions. Saturday and Sunday doesn't count.
Right.
So it looks like they may issue some charges as early as tomorrow. They've scheduled a court hearing for him. But sometimes I'll just tell you this, Holly. The court will schedule a hearing for somebody, notwithstanding what the county attorney is. And the county attorney may go to the court and say, we're not ready yet. Can we have another day? I don't necessarily expect that, but I don't know what level of work they've done with law enforcement and whether they're ready to file the case. And secondarily, when a death penalty case is charged or a capital offense, aggravated murder, which seems likely in this case, the prosecutor doesn't have to make the decision, the election, as to whether or not they're going to seek the death penalty until 60 days after the arraignment, which comes after the preliminary hearing, which comes after the first. I mean, that could be 6 months down the road.
We had that discussion recently with the shootings of the police officers up in Tremont.
Exactly. Yeah. So that decision doesn't have to be made yet, but the decision whether to and what to charge him with will, because you can't just hold a person in jail based on a probable cause statement by a police officer.
So you don't charge him with the death penalty, right? I mean, that's something that's different and separate. I just wondered if it is contaminating the case even, because it's not a political figure who says he gets the death penalty. It's the prosecution who decides if they're even going to pursue the death penalty, and then as they get to the jury, right? Do I understand that correctly?
And a prosecutor has to look at a couple things. One, not the least of which is, can you prove the case, and does the evidence support what you're charging? Is there a reasonable likelihood that if you charge this case as a capital, that you're going to get the death penalty? So the prosecution is weighing that evidence. Now, as Governor Cox early on said, we will pursue this case, we will pursue the death penalty, and that's great. But he has no control I guess he can call the county attorney and say, hey, we need some love on this. And the president can do the same thing. But by the way, there is also the potential, although we don't know much about this, that the federal prosecutors could weigh in and charge this case, because the United States government has the death penalty now too. And they can pursue that. The state certainly does. And I was looking at the probable cause statement, and under Utah law, if a person is charged with aggravated murder, that's murder with an aggravating circumstance. And so I was looking at the law and looking at what aggravating circumstances could apply. In this one, I would say there's one that says that the actor created a grave risk of death to other people other than the person that was killed. And if you think about firing a high-powered rifle over the heads of 3,000 people, he created a grave risk of death to others. So if the prosecution wants to file this as a death penalty case, they certainly have that hook that they could charge. I don't know of any others under our law. It's pretty broad, but I don't know that any.
But they
others
don't
would
even
apply.
have to say that when they file the charges.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Well, they can file it as an aggravated and
Sure,
still
sure,
get,
but they don't have to say we're pursuing this right now.
Absolutely,
That's a death
yes,
penalty
yes,
case.
you're absolutely right.
Yep.
Experts say the blame game after acts of political violence can lead to more political violence. Is social media throwing gasoline on the fire? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Stay with us.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour: the suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk is being held separately at the Utah County Jail and under special watch.
Utah County Sheriff's Office says they're holding Tyler Robinson in a special housing unit so their staff can closely watch him. KSL TV reports officers want to keep extra eyes on Robinson until he completes a mental health evaluation, which could happen later this week. Officials say they don't know of any comments Robinson has made about suicide, but want to be extra careful. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
The FBI is offering help to anyone who was at Utah Valley University at the time of Charlie Kirk's shooting.
Everyone who was there is a victim.
FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles says they have set up a virtual family assistance center for anyone needing support. There will also be events set up for people to pick up personal items left at the scene. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: Charlie Kirk's funeral will be this next weekend.
The funeral and memorial for Charlie Kirk is now set for this coming Sunday at State Farm Stadium just outside Phoenix. That's where the Arizona Cardinals play. It's got a capacity of 70,000 people. And President Trump said that he will be there.
ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman reporting. Your money at this moment: the Dow in the positive before, and just the last half hour has now dropped into the negative, down 18 points to 45,815. Coming up, we've got warmer temperatures later in the week. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 9:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, I'm always on the hunt for a deal where I get the highest quality for the best price. I mean, that's what everybody wants, right? But Bedrock Quartz delivers that. They give you the highest end countertops and backsplashes and bathrooms and tiles and all of those things. And right now, you can get the best price ever on what they have.
I love that they've extended this friends and family discount through the month of September. So you literally will pay what an employee of Bedrock Quartz would pay through the month of September. And they did 2 bathrooms at our old place and 1 in our new place. And Andy, there's just nothing like getting in a shower that is as beautiful as it can be with Bedrock Quartz.
You know, if you're in your home and you're not looking to move, but you can still make it feel like new with new countertops or new bathrooms. So right now, when you go into their showroom, the price on the showroom is what it is installed, no additional markup.
And that's true whether it's quartz or quartzite or granite or marble. And they have 100 different options to choose from. So you'll find something you fall in love with.
They're a 4th-generation family-owned countertop company headquartered in Utah since 1976. Check them out online at bedrockquartz.com.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline. So I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. And here's Heather Kelly.
Almost all of our delays are gone now across the Wasatch Front. Just a few brake lights remaining northbound I-15 between the 201 freeway and downtown Salt Lake City. And also if you're coming out of Park City this morning heading west on I-80, we do have lane restrictions as you approach Jeremy Ranch over the summit of Parley's Canyon. The 2 right lanes are blocked due to construction in the area, but those are really the only issues you're going to face right now. Arctic Spas, hot tubs, and swim spas with stores in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Automatic, natural saltwater care, making your spa water more comfortable and convenient. ArcticSpasUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly cloudy with a high just below 80 degrees. Tomorrow, the same but even cooler with high of 77 degrees, 79 on Wednesday. Then we get back up into the 80s according to the forecast. By Thursday, it stays that way through the weekend. Right now, it is 65 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, as we look at the events that occurred last week and the death and the horrible murder of Charlie Kirk, a lot of people are asking who's to blame. And of course, Spencer Cox came out and said something that I think some people sort of disagreed with, which was to the effect that, and I don't know that I could quote him exactly, that there's only one person to blame for this.
Right, the shooter.
Right, the shooter. But there's also some level of social media, some level of you know, his whole getting into this world that he got into and being politicized and being, you know, brought into this dark world probably has some roots in some people that have some culpability here.
You know, it's an interesting discussion, and we're going to continue to have this discussion. We'll talk about First Amendment rights a little bit later in the show, but just overall, right, I think words have an impact. I think it's important to realize that words matter. And we're also seeing that even in the aftermath of Charlie's death, that there's some real escalation by some people, right? A real calling for vengeance and retribution, and those types of things are really concerning. And what I saw in the Associated Press earlier today is that when you have especially a high profile assassination, a death like this, that people start to fight over which side was to blame, but then you start to spiral, right? And you start to spiral in violence that you see. So I'll just go back to a dumb thing. It's the Hatfields and McCoys, right? They were two families, and they fought for a long time, killing each other back and forth. And remember, we talked briefly on one of my fun facts of the day. It was over a pig. And it wasn't until one of their children fell in love with a child of another family that they finally got the feud to stop. But you get this spiral of violence that keeps going. And then it becomes a tit for tat. Well, you killed one of my people, so I'm going to kill one of your people, and on it goes.
Yeah, and Governor Cox last week at a press conference talked about this, that social media is a cancer in our society right now.
If you look at true political assassinations in this country of someone of this stature, this feels a lot like the late 60s, and having one so gruesomely displayed on camera in all of our hands and in all of our pockets. We are not wired as human beings biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community.
Yeah, he's not wrong, right? These types of, it's not just social media. It's also video games. And it's not just video games. It's also this idea that we have become more and more polarized, more and more set in our corners. And, you know, I heard something from John Curtis over the weekend, or at least heard about it, that he said we need to stop talking about these things in terms of extremism on the left and extremism on the right, and just talk about extremes. Most people who are social media users are not violent. Most people who are gamers are not violent, right? But you can get into these spirals, and they can be fueled by these platforms.
Yeah, and you can apparently go down these rabbit holes that are. And I'm not. I guess I'm too old for a lot of social media, so I don't spend a lot of time on it. But young people do, and even people in my generation do, where they'll start looking at things and reading things and become sort of involved or I don't know, influenced by a lot of what they're reading, and they start buying into it. They start actually being part of the. And being upset about what they're reading, getting more and more upset. We had that woman that talked to us last week about how kids go down the rabbit hole and the various steps that. Oh no, it was a psychologist.
Right, it was Dr. Hans Watson.
Yeah,
actually,
right.
The psychiatrist who was telling us the steps of radicalization.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stood out to me is they start to believe that everyone is out to get them. And how do you interrupt that? Because if you're telling them not everybody's out to get you, they know you're lying because everybody's out to get them.
And they think you're out to get them.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's a real problem.
Yeah.
And you know, I hope that there's, Governor Cox just did an outstanding job on Friday talking about, hey, let's not blame the right or the left. But that was a great message. It hasn't necessarily been followed in the media, or it hasn't been followed by the right and the left. I mean, the left is blaming sort of these right radicalization organizations. The right is saying, well, here clearly this was a leftist, idea.
Yeah.
And so there's no. I mean, who knows what this kid was looking at or what he was seeing? We'll learn more about it. But even if it was right propaganda or left propaganda,
Well,
I don't know that it matters.
And we'll talk about this too a little bit later in our show, but in the 1960s, again, they didn't have social media and they didn't have video games, and we still saw political assassinations. But one of the things that's interesting to me that I'm seeing in this Associated Press article about this spiral of violence is that about 40% of people who commit acts of political violence have a diagnosable mental illness. What that means is 60% do not. They're not mentally ill.
Right. That means they're more influenced in this radicalization that you talked about is something that they just became susceptible to. And I've seen it in a lot of contexts with people going on social media where they just become almost obsessed with what they're looking at and getting involved.
And the algorithms, right? And this is another article from the Deseret News. This is a political science professor who used to be at BYU. She's now down in Texas, Valerie Hudson. She said it's time for a national conversation about algorithms because we know social media feeds you stuff that makes you mad. We know that. They will prioritize that over stuff that you click on that you like. If you do the angry emoji face, they will feed you more of that at a higher rate and a higher level because you get more clicks. And then you start to narrow who you interact with on social media. And then you really do think the whole world thinks like you.
And of course, the counter to that is always the First Amendment. That is to say, well, what do we regulate that? Isn't it just speech, what social media is doing? But and our legislature is doing what they can to sort of protect our young people from a lot of what they're seeing and what they're being involved in or what they're being exposed to, I should say, on social media. But we're going to have a very hard discussion in this country about, and there's even some legislation right now that protects social media from civil liability if this type of conduct occurs.
Right, and
that might be revisited.
Right. There is going to be a conversation about First Amendment rights. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. People who've lost their jobs over the weekend because of things they posted about this case. It's really, part of it is there's the ability to have a conversation, but to be able to have a conversation, you have to be able to talk to people. Look, I've said this before. First Lady Abby Cox likes to say it's hard to hate people up close. If you are sitting down with a meal, it's hard to hate them. And I saw somebody online this weekend. His name's John Oliver. He was I think a Utah Teacher of the Year a few years ago. He's a Democrat. He sat down with Utah GOP leader Rob Axson, and they had lunch, or they had a Diet Coke together, right? A Utah thing. And he said they talked for an hour. They don't agree on political ideology, but they talked for an hour about how do you move past something like this. And that is how you move past something like this, is you sit and you talk to each other.
Right. And I think that's what the governor was trying to tell us on Friday. And I came away with that with such optimism for where we were going to be. But here we are today and looking at the rhetoric that is really in the media, in every sort of platform.
It takes time. Right. It
maybe
takes
so, but if we're going to continue to blame for other sources for this shooting than what really happened here, we're going to have a problem.
So on Friday, speaking of that, a coalition of 7 organizations came together to talk about how we can turn towards each other in times like these. That's coming up next. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install a Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We're down to one lane, I-80 westbound, trying to get over the summit of Parley's Canyon. And traffic was stopped for almost 5 minutes. So you've got a huge backup toward the Kimball Junction on-ramp to get over the summit. This is due to not only construction that was blocking a couple of lanes, but then we had an accident, a lot of emergency crews on board, so they're blocking another lane. So there's only one left lane getting through there. It's going to take time to get out of Park City over the summit of Parley's Canyon. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Inside Sources.
So I mentioned just as we were heading into the break that on Friday, a coalition of 7 organizations and a couple of dozen other ones got together to launch a bridge building toolkit following the assassination of Charlie Kirk at UVU. And one of those organizations is Mormon Women for Ethical Government. And Emma Adams, who is the executive director for MWEG, is on the line with us to talk to us about what this bridge building kit looks like. Hi, Emma.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Holly.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could just start by telling us what you know. Who was there at this press conference on Friday?
Yeah, so when we got word of the shooting, we pulled together a group of leaders who live here in Utah but are leading national organizations that work on bridge building, peacemaking, peace building, and that includes the Dignity Index and Braver Angels and Living Room Conversations, as well as the Wheatley Institute at BYU. Disagree Better. Excuse me. There's a bunch of us. There's so many bridging organizations in Utah. It's kind of amazing. So, we all had pre-existing relationships and worked together quite a bit and saw this as a moment when the tools that we have all collectively worked on and the practices that we have could be brought to the larger public in a moment of sorrow, heartbreak, and then also potential conflict. So we pulled together a toolkit, including events, resources, and opportunities for, everyday citizens, for the rest of us to engage around this difficult time and this difficult issue.
So this is an incredibly difficult time and difficult issue, Emma, and I appreciate what you're doing. So what does that look like to you as a group in the weeks or months to come? Where do you see it going?
I think there's certain best practices that we have practiced, and we have worked with international experts in de-escalation and conflict resolution that we need to each collectively do at these moments. And so, initially the best practice was to not speculate a ton, to practice really good media literacy skills, to try to not amplify information that may or may not be correct. And now that we have more information about the shooter, there are some other best practices that we're going to be sharing in the coming weeks. And, the first one is to interrupt this us versus them story. In times like this of high conflict, there's a lot of people who want to utilize it for gain and will come in and try to basically say and do things that help turn us against one another. So we can refuse to do that. This is not all about one group that's bad and one group that's good. We're all complex. That's a really important thing. And part of that is resisting the urge to label. Using labels like, traitor or radical or fascist, our brains filter out humanity when that happens. And then we need to each model moral courage. Like, step up. It's okay to be angry and upset, but find productive outlets that honor those feelings without, really perpetuating harm. And then last, you got to gather together. I mean, the whole point of this website that we've created called turntoward.us or Turn Toward Us is that in times of high conflict, all these forces are working against us, wanting us to turn against one another, and we have to have the moral courage to turn towards each other, turn towards the people in your life that maybe think differently than you, ask them about their experiences, and really, have the guts, frankly, to resist the urges that would force us apart.
Emma, I'm looking on your website right now, and I see that you've got psychological impact of mass violence. Is that something you feel like you can talk to our listeners about right now?
I am not an expert in that, which is why we've brought together resources so that Utahns can have access to best practices at this time. I think, the things that I did talk about definitely are best practices in any situation, but including in one like such a public violence like this. I think specifically those of us who are parents are grappling with how to talk to our children about this, especially our children who are younger. And we have resources on that page that kind of can guide you through those conversations in a way that's age appropriate, in a way that that helps us all collectively grapple with it, because we're grappling with it alongside our children, right? We're not coming at it with with a pure heart necessarily. We each have our own biases, and we each are looking at this experience through maybe our political lens as well. But let's not pass those biases onto our children. Let's figure out a way to kind of help them grapple with it in a way that's healthy and age appropriate.
Emma, I sort of started the show with a comment to Holly about how I had sort of felt like this would have moved on, but it hasn't, and it won't. And that makes what you're talking about here more important than ever, because we can say, oh, let's all hold hands and let's put this behind us, but that's not going to happen. And so, you've got quite a group of people involved in this too. Your committee, it looks like, includes people from all levels of the community to try to get together and try to build this coalition, correct?
Yeah, we are incredibly inclusive in this. We want everyone to be involved, who has the heart of a peacemaker in many ways is the way to look at it. And I would just tell you that it doesn't always come naturally to us. We're not just looking for people to be involved just who feel naturally calm about this. I'm looking for those who have passion and anger and frustration. Let us help bring you the tools you need to turn that into, productive action. It doesn't come naturally to all of us. We all have things that make us frustrated and angry, and politics is at the top. Yeah. And this particular, this week is going to bring all those to the front. And if we decided just to kind of move on and put a Band-Aid over it, I think we're going to find that we're going to have to come back to it later. Yeah. So let's take the time now to really turn towards each other and understand where we're coming from.
Thank you so much,
and
Emma.
do the healing work. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, and thanks for caring.
Yep, thank you. We've been speaking with Emma Adams, Executive Director of the Mormon Women for Ethical Government.
And in that same light, Governor Cox shared a new video on unity, speaking to the students at the University of Utah students of Utah this morning.
I know this past week has been incredibly tough. We've all felt the weight of anger, fear, and loss. And I want to take just a moment to speak directly to you, students throughout Utah. Right now, it may feel like rage is the only language in our politics, but you have the power to choose differently. Every person you meet is more than a party, or more than a label, more than a post online. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. That means talking to people you disagree with, listening even when it's hard, and forgiving even when it feels impossible. Campuses like yours must be a place of the free exchange of ideas. It's critical to our American experiment. I want to challenge you to spend less time online where outrage has become so normal, and more time in the real world. Put down your phone, read something that lifts your spirit, go outside, laugh with your friends, serve your neighbors. Remember, what happens online is not real life. And if you're wondering whether this can actually make a difference, just look around. Utahns lead the nation in service, in giving, in community. When tragedy struck this past week, there weren't riots or destruction. There were vigils, prayers, and people coming together. That's the Utah way. Your generation can carry that forward. You can build a culture where we embrace differences without letting hate divide us, where hope is stronger than cynicism, and where forgiveness breaks the cycle of violence. My friends and Utahns, this is our moment. The question is, do we escalate or do we walk down the better path? My prayer is that you will choose humanity, connection, and love. And I believe with all my heart that you will.
Is this event actually going to be a turning point for the United States? More on that conversation with Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evenson straight ahead.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Governor Cox provided more information on Meet the Press about the investigation into the shooting of Charlie Kirk. He says the suspect has not been cooperating, but his family has. He also says Tyler Robinson's roommate was in a romantic relationship with Robinson, and that roommate has been helpful in providing information.
This person did not have any knowledge, was shocked when they found out about it. When he found out about it, the suspect has not been cooperating so far, and so we're getting all of this information from family members, again people around the suspect, and then the forensic information that we have.
Cox says more information will be released tomorrow when Robinson makes his first court appearance. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration and China have made a deal to keep TikTok in the U.S. Officials say the framework of a deal has been agreed upon. CNN reports China officials and President Trump will meet on Friday to finalize the deal. The Utah Utes jumped 4 spots in the AP Top 25 poll to number 16 after getting a win against the Wyoming Cowboys in Laramie. The Utes now have the national spotlight on them when Fox Big Noon Kickoff Show comes to Salt Lake City this weekend. Utah State defeated Air Force on Saturday. BYU had a bye, returning to action against East Carolina this Saturday. Your money at this moment, the Dow squandering the early morning gains, down 11 points right now to 45,821. Coming up, several days in the 70s, the temperatures, not the years. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Hey, this is Maria Chaleos, and I am here with Blair. He's also a client of Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
So great to see you. So how much weight have you lost?
I've lost an amazing 52 pounds in just 60 days.
That's incredible. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel great. I have more energy, and the GERD and acid reflux is gone.
Talk about the scale for a minute. Were you surprised at how quickly the number went down?
It was astonishing to me as I'd get on the scale, even in the very beginning when I saw, 2-3 pounds drop off. But I ended up looking forward to getting on the scale to see how much I'd lost in the last day.
Tell me about the biggest benefits you've seen from Salt Lake City Fat Loss.
I have much more confidence in myself, lots more energy, much more adventurous walks with my dogs.
Thanks so much for sharing another great success story with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Learn the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day online at slcfatloss.com. slcfatloss.com.
Results may vary.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
Well, this is for drivers heading westbound I-80 away from Park City, trying to get over the summit of Parley's Canyon. Not only do we have construction that originally was blocking the two right lanes of the freeway between Jeremy Ranch and the summit, a crash happened right at the summit that's now blocking a third lane. So there's only one left lane available for drivers, and that has traffic at a crawl, barely moving, and it's backed up almost to the Kimball Junction on-ramp. So that's a couple of miles of just pretty much stopped traffic trying to get over the summit. Once you do, you've got good speeds the rest of the way into Salt Lake City, and no other accidents reported right now across the Wasatch Front. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're looking for a high today of 79 degrees, 77 tomorrow, and then 79 again on Wednesday before temperatures climb back into the 80s. Right now it's partly cloudy and 66 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
As we spoke before the break, a lot of people are calling this a real watershed moment for the United States, and our own Governor Cox pointed out that in comments that he made about American history.
I believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
So we have with us Jay Evenson, opinion editor of the Deseret News. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you join us. Look, you, the editorial board for the Deseret News penned an op-ed that started just with that, with the governor's quote that this is a watershed moment. So what do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard to say that this is a watershed moment when it's just another in a series of violent attacks, including a state lawmaker in Minnesota and 2 attempts on our current president's life when he was a candidate. But I think every one of these acts, you could say, is a watershed in terms of how are we going to respond to it, and is this going to foment more violence? Or are we finally going to come to our senses? Ultimately, the question of whether it's a watershed depends on each one of us, because the future is made up of millions or billions of decisions by individuals all over the world. We decide what the future is going to be. And the governor talks about, hugging the grass and enjoying life. And I think those things are important. But I go back to Nelson Mandela, who was just a fantastic leader. And you think about taking over a country that had just been riven by racial violence for decades. And what he did was set up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And one of his first acts was to hold a lunch where he invited the widows of both sides, the pro-apartheid and the anti-apartheid groups, to signal that we're going to sit down with our enemies and we're going to talk this out. I think that's what really needs to happen. There have been polls recently that have shown that we don't do that. Most ardent Republicans don't have any friends who are Democrats, and most ardent Democrats don't have any friends that are Republicans. We really need to sit down with people of opposite political views and listen and see why they feel the way they do, and then talk it out, make friends. I think that's how we're going to solve this, and that determines whether this is a watershed for good or bad.
So far, Jay, what we're seeing is not that necessarily, and it seems that there has been a good deal of blame going back and forth. And you talk about other shootings that have happened, even things that you might call assassinations over the last several years. Nothing seems to have gained the public attention that this one has, for whatever reason. And I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with Charlie Kirk a week ago. I really wasn't. I mean, I knew that he was out there, but I mean, this case, this situation, for some reason has gathered our national attention in a way that I didn't expect. And I know you probably wonder what my question is here, but I mean, what do you think it is about this case because I appreciate what you're saying and I agree with everything you're saying. What is it about this case that's brought this to the fore so much?
Probably a couple of things. One is that he was so remarkably popular among young people. And they are the ones kind of fueling the discussion on the internet. And so that was one. The other thing is the videos that were taken of this. And I really liked a column in the Wall Street Journal by Matthew Hennessy, and he said, don't watch the video.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, a man, I can quote from him here, a man was killed in the coldest blood. You know it. You don't need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Our innocence about mankind's capacity for violence may be long since gone, but we still need to keep our little souls as clean as possible, unsullied by images of ugly and indelible things. Protect your central nervous system from exposure to toxic and corrosive elements. I really think that's true. For the people who were there and who saw it, I think a lot of them are going to need therapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And why expose yourself to that type of violence? I think it makes an impact on your soul, as he says here in this column.
So I'm older. I have more life experience than the kids that were there that day. And I saw the video, and it's still living in my head. Like it has shown up in my dreams over the weekend, and it's like, I should not have done that.
Right.
I should not have done that. And I did. But it's a generational thing, and not just generational, but like it's a worldwide movement that has impacted people, right? There's millions and millions of people who now have that image living in their head.
Now, I write about growing up in the 60s as I did, and all the assassinations that we saw them, but we didn't see a graphic image of them. The one exception being John F. Kennedy and the Zapruder film, but that was kept under wraps for many years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until long after that that we see it. Now you can find it anywhere on the internet, but it's disturbing as well. And I would argue, don't look at it. But how do you tell an entire generation not to look at something when it's just ubiquitous? It's everywhere.
I'll admit I didn't watch the video, and I have no interest in watching the video. But I was a child of the '60s, and I remember being how it affected us. Not the video, but just the events when JFK, his brother, and Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, all assassinated within not necessarily a long period of time, and just feeling like we're falling down a rabbit hole. And of course the country came through and we did well, but it seems like we're getting the same level of response now, that especially with, like you say, Jay, you nailed it, with the young people who are probably wondering, where are we going? Where are we headed right now?
That's where I really have to give props to Governor Cox, because what we need are the grown-ups, the leaders, to calm everybody down and say it's going to be okay. We have this constitutional system of government, and it can handle these kinds of things. And we, the people, have the power and have the ability to work out our problems and to come together and forge a better future. Without that, I think, yes, young people would really be frightened and not certain what's going to happen in the future. So give props to the governor. I think he said it better than any other politician, I think, last week, and that was very important.
You know, one of the things that I wonder about, and I've been concerned as a mom for a long time, are first-person shooter games, right? Where those graphics have become more and more graphic. So when my kids were younger, I wouldn't let them play anything over like a 13 rating, a T13, right? Because of that, I don't want the desensitization to happen where it's like, well, I saw that on a game. But I think Governor Cox was right. We're not actually wired to watch a person die in front of us and not have it impact us in ways that can be ripple out for decades, maybe.
Right, and I think, and of course, I don't know the science behind this, but I think the more you watch those kinds of things, the less you feel the humanity and the less empathy that you have, and that's obviously a real problem.
So so how do we choose then to not let it, like, what do we do to not let it escalate? And we'll continue this conversation about the 60s, but that sounds fun. But how do we do that as an individual or in our own homes?
Well, a lot of the responsibility falls on parents, of course, for setting the tone and how well you control internet consumption within your home. That's a very difficult thing, because not only are your kids watching things on their own devices, but they can go to other people's homes where maybe the rules aren't as strict as at your house. It's a dangerous thing, but I think parents need to instruct children. They need to have family meetings where they talk about this kind of thing, and then you hope for the best. As my wife and I have raised 5 kids. It's the most difficult thing I can think of.
Look, we're gonna talk more about how the U.S. moved past those political assassinations of the 60s with Jay when we come back. And remember, we're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America, and traffic is still at a standstill. Westbound I-80 leaving Park City from Kimball Junction, trying to get over the summit of Parley's Canyon. This is all due to both construction that was blocking 2 right lanes and then a crash in the middle of that blocking a 3rd lane. So that only leaves 1 left lane open and a bunch of emergency crews arriving on scene, which sometimes stops all traffic. And right now, again, you're at a standstill. Nobody's moving for a couple of miles trying to get over the summit. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
This summer, your carpets saw it all. Dirt, dust, even pet mess. This autumn, it's time to fall back in love with your home with Zero-Res carpet and air duct cleaning. Zero-Res uses patented ZR water technology to clean the right way with no harsh chemicals or sticky residues. That means carpets stay cleaner longer, dry in just hours, and are safe for kids and pets. Plus, Zero-Res backs it up with their Gotta Love It guarantee. If you're not happy, they'll re-clean it free within 30 days. And right now, get the carpet of any room cleaned for just $43 and take 15% off air duct cleaning services when you mention KSL. Fall back in love with your carpets today. Schedule online at Zero-Res.com. Spelled the same forward or backward. Zero-Res is the right way to clean.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Hey, want to hear something great? Right now at Wendy's, you can get 2 of the #1 selling bacon cheeseburger in all fast food, the JBC, plus medium fries and a medium soft drink for just $8. Want to hear something else great? Double the burger means double the bacon. Now that's a game changer. 2 of the #1 bacon cheeseburgers with fries and a drink for just $8. Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Request $8 JBC meal deal to obtain discount. Individual items at regular price.
University of Maryland Global Campus offers more than 55 flexible online certificates that provide short-term credentials and real-world skills you can use immediately. With a range of affordable undergraduate and graduate certificates in high-demand fields like business, AI, cybersecurity, data analytics, and healthcare, you can earn credentials quickly to help advance your career. Learn more at umgc.edu. That's umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The new Inside Sources.
We're continuing our discussion with Jay Evenson, opinion editor for the Deseret News, on moving past something like this world-shaking event. I mean, we've had, I think, assassinations before. This one has really gone around the world. And it's interesting to me also because there have been political assassinations in other countries that have not impacted the U.S. like this one is impacting other countries. Anyway, Jay, you shared in an article you wrote that one of your very first memories is President Kennedy's assassination. Would you share a little bit about that?
Right. And I've wondered about that. I was 4 years old at the time. Why did that stick in my mind so much? And I think it had to do with how the grown-ups around me reacted to it. My parents were strong Republicans. They were Goldwater supporters in '64. I remember, and Nixon supporters in 1960. But they were really shaken by what happened, and there was a lot of grief. I remember my mother took me somewhere with her right after the bulletin hit. It was a planned trip. And we came back, and my sister was there. My older sister had been let out of school early because of the tragedy. And she was sitting in tears in front of the TV watching what was happening. So I think it was that kind of universal grief that seared that into my memory. And I remember to this day bits and pieces of that, quite vividly.
Yeah. How did the nation move past that? It was like about 4 years later that MLK and then RFK were both assassinated within 2 months of each other.
Yeah.
In '68, just 4 years after John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
You go back and look at the newspapers from that time, and you see a lot of consistent themes with today. There was a lot of talk about shouldn't we have gun control. That was a big topic in the 60s, and nothing really ever happened. I think we got some tougher laws, but nothing like what people were advocating or then or today. You could argue that we really never did move past it. I mean, there's a whole generation, myself included, that that's a seminal event. And people have always wondered what might have happened or not happened if Kennedy had been allowed to live. It was a big part of my life, the tragedies of the 60s. And I write in here about playing a game with a friend of mine where we would take turns pretending we were giving a speech and the other one shooting the speaker. And I think it's a sad and it's a disturbing thing, but we were just playing as kids do with the grown-up world as we saw it and understood it. There's a little girl next door who, she didn't live next door. Her grandparents did, and she would come visit occasionally. Her father went missing in Vietnam, and so Vietnam was a big part of my growing up. Assassinations were a big part of my growing up. I think what eventually happened was we solved a lot of the problems that were causing contention in the 60s. The Vietnam War ended. The Soviet Union collapsed. But it seems like the violence, our violent tendencies were still just lurking underneath the surface, and they've come back again.
And that's interesting you mentioned gun control because that was 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't do much, if anything, to regulate guns. I mean, we certainly had the Brady Bill after Reagan's shooting. But we're talking now about a different, a gun was used here, make no mistake. But there was also this, what we've been calling and describing, this radicalization of young people, and the fact that these social media platforms are creating these algorithms. Do you think there's a time, Jay, to have a discussion about some regulation in that forum?
I do. You run smack into the First Amendment.
I know, right.
And so it becomes a very difficult thing. But Governor Cox called the internet a cancer, and I think he's right in these situations. I mean, we're seeing not only are we seeing passions being fomented on both sides, but now we have bots being placed there by foreign countries. We have no idea what's real and what isn't. I have relatives writing to me saying, "Oh, I just saw this on Twitter. Isn't this disturbing?" And I'm thinking, I don't think that's real. I think that's something from China or Russia or somebody planning a bot. It's such a difficult issue, but we have freedom of speech in this country, and so I don't know how you put limits on that.
I think people might try, right? And that's part of the conversation is how far does the First Amendment go? We know that it's not carte blanche. We know that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Right.
Right. But I think there'll be discussions in coming days for sure. Look, one of the things that stood out to me is when we talk about the 60s, I grew up then too, but I don't have early memories of these assassinations. I know, though, from later that when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, that it was RFK actually who went into Indianapolis and helped kind of tone it down, right? And he went in to express his sorrow.
That was an amazing act because a lot of cities in the nation were just coming apart. There were riots that night. And RFK went to Indianapolis and to the black parts of town, and gave a speech about how he had lost his brother to an assassin, and really calmed a lot of the feelings in Indianapolis. This is what I was trying to talk about in the last segment. We need our leaders to be a calming influence. We had the benefit in the 60s of our parents were from the World War II generation. They had a certain amount of wisdom that I think we lack today. We need that generation back, frankly. But we need our leaders to tell us it's going to be okay and here's why, and to remind us of the constitutional system of government that we have and how we've weathered these crises over and over again in our country, and try to just reassure the people. I wish we'd hear more of that.
We heard a little bit of that from Governor Cox,
yes.
and I think that he tried to give that message. But and I thought, I guess I'm just naive, but I listened to that and I thought, okay, America, grab onto this. But here we are Monday morning, and I'm watching the screens behind you, and there's still this blame going on, and it's starting right at the top. And I don't blame the president more than anyone else, but we're not getting that message across, and this is a rhetorical question, Jay, and I'm sorry to even put you on the spot, but I don't know what's going on in this country that we're not getting that message.
It's very true, and it's a difficult thing. The governor, I think, realized that he was in a rare position where he had a national audience there at that press conference, and he took advantage of it, and kudos to him for doing that. But how do you penetrate the voices out there that want to just foment more discontent and cast blame? Like I said, it's millions of individual decisions in this country that are going to shape the future. We have to try to find our better angels, as the governor said.
You know, one of our texters reminded us that President Abraham Lincoln, he was asked once why he appointed some of his most vile enemies and protagonists to his cabinet after he became president. And he said, "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to. And Greg, to your point, when you're talking about it hasn't happened yet, when President Kennedy was assassinated, it was 4 more years before we had Martin Luther King and then RFK also assassinated within 2 months of each other. So within 2 months of him giving that speech, he also had been shot and killed. It was not an overnight thing. It was not something that happened. But by golly, gosh, it has to start at our family level, at our local level. And I loved your loved, hated your point that most Republicans don't have friends that are Democrats and vice versa. Most Democrats don't have friends who are Republicans.
Well, and worse than that, you look at a demographic map of the United States, and we're choosing with our feet to move to areas of the country where people believe the same as we do. So we're becoming even more polarized geographically, and it's going to make it harder to listen to what other people think.
Thanks, Jay. It's nice to have you back in the studio. Jay Evenson, Deseret News opinion editor, who's always kind to join us. And we missed you the last couple of weeks.
Oh, thank you. I missed you, both of you as well.
Coming up on Inside Sources, we're going to take an inside look at how members of Congress are responding to the killing of Charlie Kirk. Some lawmakers want to tone down the rhetoric, and others want to take more action. That's next.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. The suspect in the shooting death of Charlie Kirk is expected to make his first court appearance tomorrow. We should learn more about the case when investigators file charges before the hearing. Other top national stories this hour from ABC News. Venezuela is claiming the U.S. Navy unlawfully searched a tuna boat trying to find illegal drugs.
The Venezuelan government says that happened within its economic exclusion zone. In other words, essentially on its territory on the ocean. What the U.S. officials are saying is that, no, that actually was on international waters. We'll see where it goes from here, but there's no doubt that the tension overall is rising.
ABC's Christian Cordero reports no drugs were found on the boat and no one was taken into custody. Research at the Moran Eye Center has led to a possible treatment for macular degeneration. Dr. Gregory Hageman says the treatment uses the shell of a virus called capsid to replace a defective gene.
The virus capsid disappears and they deliver the protective form of the gene, which is then made by these cells, we hope, forever and ever.
He says this therapy could be available in 5 years. Your money at this moment, the Dow rebounding into the positive now, just less than 0.1%, 25 points to 45,861. Coming up, we still got emergency traffic for drivers out there. We'll check that coming up next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
When your name's on the paint job, your primer better hold up. Painters trust Kills primers for serious adhesion, stain blocking, and a finish that lasts. Now, the full Kills lineup is available exclusively at the Home Depot. Need it fast? Get same-day or next-day delivery, or order online and pick it up in-store. Kills primers. Pro results. Faster. The Home Depot. If you're a pro, you know.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Time for another check of emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Heather, what's the update?
Well, we still have big delays westbound I-80. If you leave Kimball Junction coming out of Park City, heading west over the summit of Parley's Canyon, 3 miles of pretty much stopped traffic, starting with a construction that was blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. Then a pretty bad crash happened. We've got an oil spill mixed in with all of that. So now 3 right lanes of the freeway are closed. Only 1 left lane getting through, and that's what's caused your 3 miles of delay trying to get out of Park City. Otherwise, you're going to have a nice drive on I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties, and no issues right now coming out of Tooele County. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, warm but not too hot with a high of 79. We'll see pretty much the same thing Tuesday and Wednesday, and then it does start heating back up with temperatures in the mid-80s the rest of the week. Right now it's fair and 70 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We had a really interesting conversation with Jay Evenson over the last couple of segments. He's the opinion editor for the Deseret News about where we move forward. And I'm looking at an article that was written by Cami Mondo, the congressional correspondent for the Deseret News. She covers national news, and the headline of the article, Holly, is this: in the aftermath of the tragedy, how do we move forward? And in the article, we're learning that some lawmakers are interested in toning down the rhetoric. Others want to take more action. So we don't seem to have necessarily a consensus yet.
And take more action is a really nice way to say they don't want to tone it down. So Cami is on the line with us. Hey, Cami, thanks so much for joining us again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Can you talk to us about some of the things you've heard on the Hill?
Absolutely. And so, last week when this first happened, the news first broke out, I think what we saw was just raw emotion coming from all these lawmakers, particularly on the Republican side, because those are the ones who were really close to Charlie Kirk. They had friendships with him. They spoke to him regularly. And so there was a lot of talk, how do we move forward? It didn't seem like they had an answer, but it seemed like a lot of them just wanted to have someone to point the finger to. They wanted someone or something to blame, because it seems like that's an easier way to, if you have something that caused this, you can fix or focus on that. And it seems like we haven't really landed on what that is. But even if you just go on the internet, you're seeing everyone just grasping for anything that they can use to explain this.
Yeah, and it seems like one of the explanations is this idea, this concept of radicalization, and what people, especially our young people, are getting off of the internet, and sort of in response to some of the algorithms that these providers are putting together. Do you think there's going to be ever a discussion on the Hill about internet regulation? I know we have the whole First Amendment problem, which is a huge problem, a huge hurdle, but is there any discussion about dialing that back?
I think that is definitely going to be a topic of discussion. We're going to start seeing this week especially. I think last week was too new for anyone to really kind of land on a specific resolution for this, but I think you're definitely going to start seeing people want to crack down on social media and misinformation, especially in the aftermath of the shooting. We saw people trying to post photos of who they thought the shooter was, and that ended up being incorrect. Just this morning, and I am working on a story right now with Senator Mike Lee, who he said he wants to introduce a resolution that would reinforce some old government regulations that basically would control what people can post on social media if it's misinformation, or propaganda was the term when the law was first passed during the Cold War era. But that's something you might see a lot of as well, is just people trying to crack down on AI-generated content or just blatant disinformation.
And Cami, who gets to police that? Who gets to decide if it's true or not true?
I think that's going to be the question you're going to see people pushing back on. Representative Thomas Massey last week was kind of speaking to this a little bit, where he was saying if a resolution is policing what's online, he likely would not support that because he does want, those First Amendment rights to still be intact. And I think that's a great question of, if you decide things have to be policed, is it the social media companies that have to do that? Is it the government? I think those are key questions that would need to be answered before they could really move forward.
What was it about Charlie Kirk, do you think, Cammie, that has sort of ignited this discussion? Because we've had other political figures attacked, injured, and even killed in the last several years that didn't garner this level of public attention. And I'll be honest, and I said this earlier, I wasn't particularly familiar with Charlie Kirk, but it seems like he was a very prominent figure with the Republican Party.
Absolutely, and that's been an interesting question that I've spoken to with just other reporters, other lawmakers, where it kind of seems like, in what I'm gathering from different conversations, is that Charlie Kirk kind of transcended the idea of traditional politics. It wasn't just someone who was for traditional Republicans, wasn't just someone for fringe Republicans. Even with Democrats, they knew who he was, whether they agreed with him or not. And I think just the situation was so unexpected and egregious, it touched everybody in that way. But I think because you probably wouldn't see the same reaction if it was just a lawmaker, to your point, I think because he was someone who wasn't only a political figure, but to some people he was like a celebrity, to some people he was a close friend, and he was someone who really, I think, changed the landscape of politics in some way, that this just changed things more so than if a lawmaker had passed in the same way.
That's really interesting to me. We're speaking with Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent. I have a question about just what the week will look like. So is it going to be business as usual this week, but just a little more moments of silence for Charlie? Or I know you're coming up, we as a country are coming up on a hard deadline to fund our nation. That's 2 weeks away, right? What does a work week look like this week?
Absolutely. So we will be kind of returning back to that business as usual, but you're going to see this touch into all of that as well. So, they come back this evening. There is going to be a moment of silence and prayer for Charlie Kirk before the House opens up into its regular business. But like you said, they have to get their government spending done. They're supposed to be getting some good progress on that this week. But part of what's been the holdup is that now some lawmakers are wanting to include extra funding into that package for member security, especially after this attack. And so you're seeing that, this Charlie Kirk shooting is going to start playing into other areas. Members are going to get some security briefings from Capitol Police. And so it will be business as usual, but you're going to start to see that seep into people's concerns and how they're going to want to do things.
Yeah, and how does that look right now, Cammie, with respect to the law enforcement community and whatnot in the D.C. area? I mean, do you think this is the kind of thing where either the administration or Congress or both are going to say, at least for the while, we do need to ramp things up and we do need to have a higher presence of security among our political leaders?
I know that at least last week, both House GOP leadership had expressed interest in providing more security. I think the issue that they have is that they aren't sure if the funding is there, just because there are so many members of Congress that they're concerned it could cost too much. But then you did have the White House late last week issue a request that they said they wanted more spending for other national figures. So it's going to be interesting to see, the National Guard is already here in D.C. if they start to shift some of their focus closer to Capitol Hill. Right now they're in neighborhoods and more residential areas. It'll be interesting to see if they kind of shift that focus up there, or if, White House and Congress just want to focus specifically on spending. It'll be interesting to see, what their strategy is there.
Cammie, this is, I don't know if you can answer this question. It seems to me that there has been an increase in both the number of death threats and the specificity of death threats. But at the same time, how do you decide which to take seriously and how do they not? If you're going to increase personal security, I understand. I mean, even Mitt Romney had to pay for security out of his own pocket, right? How do you balance that with saying we have a nation of people who feel free to send death threats to public figures?
Right. And, you have some lawmakers who are open about the death threats or things that they receive and they actually post them online. And a lot of them are, really scary. And I think that's always been, a topic of conversation of how do, the FBI get thousands of tips a day? How do they know which one is real, which one's not? How do they decide to respond? And I think that's probably the same kind of, hypothetical question in the same sense of how do you know which ones you're supposed to respond to. How do you know how you're supposed to handle these kinds of things? I'm not sure if there is an answer. I'm not sure how they're even going to move forward with, anyone can send a message to their lawmaker. That's an important part of Congress. They really revel in that. But how do you, now move forward with that and address it if you're going to start getting threats every now and again? So it's a good question. I don't know if there is an answer yet, but that's how it looks today.
Thanks, Cami. That was Cami Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent, and I think that was really interesting. But Holly, how do they respond? I mean, they can't just say, "Oh, we need to pass the budget bill next week." You know what I mean? They've got to do something in the interim, and I don't know what that. I know that's a hard question, but something's got to be done. People are looking at Congress saying, "Okay."
I know,
folks.
but what's the knee-jerk reaction, right? So remember, after 9/11, we had that's where we got TSA, right? And it's not that TSA is necessarily bad, but you have this statement and this sentiment. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin, is you can have freedom or you can have security, but you can't have both. So what is that balance there? Or what is the balance? Right. So workers around the country are actually getting fired over their postings on Charlie Kirk's death. And I'm wondering, can they do that? And what about the First Amendment? We'll talk about that when we come back. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. This is for westbound I-80 traffic trying to leave Kimball Junction in Park City and head west over the summit of Parley's Canyon. Traffic is completely stopped right now for 3 miles due to a crash and construction blocking 3 right lanes of the freeway. There's also a brand new crash northbound 15 in Murray that is currently blocking 3 right lanes of the freeway. Emergency crews are just arriving on scene on that one. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
The United States is facing a mental health crisis, but there is hope. At Huntsman Mental Health Foundation, they're transforming how mental health is treated and researched, bringing compassion, innovation, and access to those who need it most. Your donation helps fund life-saving care and cutting-edge research that leads to better treatment for everyone. It's already making a difference. Huntsman Mental Health Foundation has built Utah's first ever mental health crisis care center, open 24/7 to anyone, regardless of ability to pay. They've also recently launched a youth crisis care program at Huntsman Mental Health Institute, giving kids and teens immediate support. And Huntsman Mental Health Foundation is expanding services like therapy, medication management, geriatric care, and treatment-resistant support. Join us. Be part of the change. Donate today at hmhf.org. That's hmhf.org.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
This week's movie show brought to you by My Hearing Centers. Schedule a hearing evaluation and be entered to win a set of premium hearing aids by tuning in Friday from 10 to 1.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
That leaf pile is 100 feet tall. Your dad can't handle this. Not without the right equipment.
Yard work piling up? Gear up for fall with John Deere. Get $750 off select mowers, $2,000 off select Gator UVs, and $3,000 off select compact tractors.
Did I hear your dad got a John Deere? Yep, bad day to be a leaf pile.
Gear up for fall at an authorized John Deere dealer, now through September 30th. Learn more at johndeere.com/gearupforfall.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping.
Because when you talk, they hear you.
Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The new Inside Sources.
There's been some maybe unexpected fallout from the murder of Charlie Kirk last week, and that is including some people who have actually lost their jobs in response to comments they made. MSNBC political analyst Matthew Dowd lost his job shortly after he made comments about the assassination. His employer said that he was wrong, that he was inciting, and that his comments were hateful.
Also inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. So there was a staff member at the University of Mississippi who was fired after sharing insensitive comments, according to the school's chancellor. A comic book writer lost her job because of social media posts, as did other educators in Mississippi and Tennessee. A Carolina Panthers public relations official lost their job. Right? I mean, it's a question of how far do First Amendment rights go?
Yeah, and the answer to that is it doesn't. Your employer in most states, including Utah, can fire you for just about anything, including exercising your First Amendment rights if they don't like what you say. So the First Amendment is great. You can say what you want, but an employer doesn't have to keep you on their staff if you're violating it. So, for example, there wouldn't necessarily be a criminal prosecution for a First Amendment violation or some level of censorship. But your employer isn't bound by that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
right.
So if I have an employee who's suddenly posting about some hateful rhetoric toward a particular group, ethnic group or whatever, I can say, sorry, we don't want you here. Post whatever you want. I can't stop you, but I can stop you from coming into my office from now on.
So how does that play into being an at-will state? So Utah's an at-will employment state, right? So my understanding is you can be let go at any time for any reason or no reason at all.
Yes, and Utah is maybe not particularly unusual about that, but yes, Utah, they can say, I mean, you can fire an employee because their socks don't match one day. And it's terrible, but Utah takes at will to an entirely new level. Now, some employers, including government employers, have what's called a merit system where you have some level of protection. Teachers have you become tenured, and then you have some level of protection. Or if you have an employment contract, you can be fired if you violate the terms of the contract. But otherwise, like you say, we're at will here in Utah, and even government employees in some of these other groups that I'm talking about often have a probationary period where you can be terminated for any reason at all.
Well, Utah law newly changed, I think either this last legislative session or the one before, changed even tenure. So people with tenure can also be let go now. It's interesting, Ray. And one of the articles that I looked at today for the Utah Policy Newsletter, this one is from Reuters, and this one says, "Mourn Charlie Kirk properly or else." And then the subhead really is saying, look, they're saying you have to you can expect that we will either sue you into oblivion, or we're going to get you fired from your job, right? We're going to dox your house. I mean, there are things where people are online scouring for information for people who are not, quote unquote, supportive enough of Charlie Kirk's passing.
Yeah, and so it would seem to me that if you want to, why chime in at all? I mean, and if you do chime in, recognize that there are certain things you might be doing that are at will. There may be certain organizations you're involved in, your employer, your marriage. I mean, there are certain things you might be doing where the other party says, sorry, I don't want to be associated with you anymore.
So one one U.S. lawmaker said that anyone who, quote, ran their mouth with their smart aleck hatred celebrating the murder of that beautiful young man needs to be banned from all platforms forever. So he's one that wants to ban people from accessing social media for the rest of their lives, which you just create another profile. I'm so sorry, Mr. Lawmaker. And then other ones are proposing that Kirk's critics be deported or sued into penury, right, which I assume means poverty.
Right, yes.
That's a fancy British word. Thanks so much. It's really interesting to me to see how much this is going on, right? It's going after, I think I said, the last I saw was there are like 40,000 names on a list of people that they're going after for retribution.
Yeah, and what I see some of these people who are posting, and it makes me cringe, because it'll start with, it's really horrible what happened to Charlie Kirk, but here's what he did. In other words, it wasn't that horrible. Well, I don't know how you can put any spin on a murder other than it was.
It's so sad.
The worst thing you could. It's terrible. And so, you don't agree with some of his comments. Did that contribute?
Well, but
is that the fault of him?
Right, but is that now saying that you can't disagree with anybody now? And we do have a lawmaker who has said, this is another Washington lawmaker, I think he's from Oklahoma, saying it's not a crime to disagree with somebody's opinion. It's not a crime to disagree with that. But if you are at risk of losing your job, if you disagree publicly, right, you can say, I'm so sad, and, while I didn't always agree, I understand that, I get that, I understand that. But
they're doing more than that. They're highlighting what he said in a way that makes it appear that he was...
But sometimes they're just quoting his own comments back. And that's where you get to, for my questions, right, for First Amendment, I think, it has a real chilling effect on people saying, I can't share now because I'm at risk of losing my job. And then does that make the echo chamber even worse?
Right. The thing is, you don't have a right to do your job. You know what I mean? That's what at-will's about. So you do have a right to not go to prison or to jail. And so you won't be jailed for your First Amendment comments unless they're slanderous or something like that. But your job, your employer is like, hey, I can't afford to have you work for me anymore because of comments you made that are going to affect my business. I don't want you here anymore. Even MSNBC saying, we just don't need the grief, Matthew Dowd. And he almost certainly had an employment contract, but there may be something in that says if you bring disparagement or public contempt to the network, we can terminate you, and they may feel like he crossed that line.
Yeah, it's just, for me, it's an interesting discussion on the limits of the First Amendment. And I will say it's not limited to this Charlie Kirk situation. There have been, of course, you've seen this over and over and over with the Israel-Gaza situation. I think we see it with young people who are graduating from college. Their advice to make sure your social media content has been scoured so that your potential employer is not seeing you partying it up, right? Holding a drink in your hand and looking like you're inebriated, right? Intoxicated. That's one of the issues too. So we know employers go look at social media right now. We know that people have lost their jobs for taking a stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict, right? So there's different ways where this can show up.
Yeah, and then we're seeing a Fox News reporter, Brian Kilmeade, making a comment that the homeless people should be executed. I don't even know what context you would say that, but
we're going to talk about that in a coming up segment. But yeah, right?
What's
lethal injection.
Yeah, what's his employer going to do as a response to that? That's another example, I guess.
They did not fire him. I
Yeah.
will say that.
Well,
so look, again, it's an ongoing conversation about First Amendment, and I'll say, just looking at the peace building comments and looking at these organizations and trying to get people to ratchet down the heat, maybe sometimes you don't post it.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you just don't post it.
Right. I mean, or I tell people this before you make a post like that, write it, but before you post it, go take a
Wait
walk.
12 hours.
Wait a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Run it by a friend. I sometimes do that with my wife when I'm angry at somebody. I'm like, honey, will you just read this before I hit
Yeah,
send?
exactly.
And
so
she will.
I remember in my early blogging days, it was super funny because there was this meme, this cartoon that went around that said, "No, honey, I can't come to bed. Someone on the internet is wrong." Right?
Right. Yes.
You cannot spend your time doing that. You just can't. Sometimes you just have to let it go.
And we've all hit send. And
that we
we
regret.
hadn't done that or given
Recall,
a comment.
recall.
Right, yes. No timeouts. Let's switch gears when we come back. We're going to discuss an explosive device that was found under a media truck in Salt Lake City over the weekend, and arrests were made in connection with that. Stay with us on KSL News Radio, and remember, we can stream us live on KSL on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. The suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk is being held separately right now at the Utah County Jail and under special watch.
Utah County Sheriff's Office says they're holding Tyler Robinson in a special housing unit so their staff can closely watch him. KSL TV reports officers want to keep extra eyes on Robinson until he completes a mental health evaluation, which could happen later this week. Officials say they don't know of any comments Robinson has made about suicide, but want to be extra careful. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
The FBI is offering help to anyone who was at Utah Valley University at the time of the shooting.
Everyone who was there is a victim.
FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles says they have set up a virtual family assistance center for anyone needing support. There will also be events set up for people to pick up personal items left at the scene. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, Charlie Kirk's funeral to be held this next weekend.
The funeral and memorial for Charlie Kirk is now set for this coming Sunday at State Farm Stadium just outside Phoenix. That's where the Arizona Cardinals play. It's got a capacity of 70,000 people. And President Trump said that he will be there.
That's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman. Your money at this moment, the Dow down just a tiny little bit, less than a percentage point. S&P 500 and NASDAQ both in the green. Coming up, how long will these fall-like temperatures last? KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
The weather is cooling off to the lower 70s and 50s at night. Prep your home early for fall and winter with a call to At Your Service Pros, your whole home service professionals, family owned by people like you. At Your Service Pros cares about their customers and know things are tight. And to help with fall prep, they're offering $49 furnace tune-ups, $39 electrical inspections, and $75 off electrical repairs. At Your Service is all in the name. They're there for you, giving solutions without unnecessary upsell and backed by 5-star reviews. They want to earn your trust to be your go-to whole home service company for commercial and residential. And they support the community they live and serve. Save money, time, and eliminate expensive home utility repairs by using a pro all completely at your service. $49 furnace tune-ups, $39 electrical inspection, $75 off any electrical repairs, plus maintenance or replacement with straight up honest work done right, guaranteed. Call AYSP 801-YOUR-PRO at yourservicepros.com. 801-YOUR-PRO at Your Service Pros.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Emergency traffic is still the case here. We've got it brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Heather Kelly, what's going on?
We've got 3 miles of stopped traffic, I-80 westbound from Kimball Junction, leaving Park City, all the way to the summit of Parley's Canyon. It's due to a crash that caused a hazmat spill. Only one left lane of the freeway is open right now, causing all your delays. Now, if you're on northbound I-15 in the Salt Lake Valley, we also had a multi-vehicle crash right at the exit to 4500 South in Murray. That has now been moved over to the right lane of that exit ramp at 45th South, but it had been in main flow traffic, so you still have some slowing through most of Murray. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with Good Feet Store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're looking at partly cloudy skies today with highs in the 80s. Tomorrow, the same but slightly cooler as we'll stay in the 70s. That's going to continue through about Wednesday. Right now, sunny and 71 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Boy, this came right out of nowhere, but 2 men in Magna have been arrested after officers found an explosive device under a news media truck in Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis has more details.
On Friday, several bomb squads responded to a report of a device under a news media vehicle that was parked near an occupied building. They say they found an explosive device that had been lit but malfunctioned. Fox 13 has identified the news media vehicle as one of their trucks. Police say they found Adib Nasir and Adil Justice Ahmed Nasir at their Magna home with bombs the suspects said were real. Officers evacuated the neighborhood until they found both bombs were fake. They also found firearms and illegal narcotics. Police have asked for both suspects to be held without bail, saying they're worried the two will run and be a threat to the public. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Well,
a lot to break down there.
I actually had somebody in church yesterday ask me if I had ever gotten a death threat as a journalist, and I said no, but then I sent her this article.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, they place an explosive device, they lit it, but it malfunctioned. And then they say they found other bombs that were
not real,
that are fake. And they found firearms and illegal narcotics. I mean, there's got to be some agenda here or something that we're not learning about that maybe we'll learn more as the investigation continues. But it just happened Friday.
Over the weekend. Yeah, it's just, it is. Look, media has become a target too, right? So even my extended family is like, oh, that evil biased media. And I'll be like, hello.
Yeah, right.
Right, I'm over here. But it's a concern. And one of the things, of course, my first question is, well, why? Why did they do this? And I don't see that there's anything with the why, right? That we don't know why they did this. We don't know why if they specifically targeted Fox 13, if it was specific to media, if it was just random and it happened to be Fox 13. We don't know.
So possession of an explosive device, a bomb, is a crime. But in this case, if it's an illegal bomb, I mean, I guess you could make a firework or something. But they lit it, but it malfunctioned. So to me, if I was prosecuting that case, that's like an attempted murder at that point. You know what I mean? It's not just a possession of an explosive device. Or
I see what you're saying.
Incendiary device.
Yeah.
They lit it, and it didn't work. So they had a lot more on their mind than just scaring people with a bomb.
Here's one of the things I'm reading, and maybe you can tell me this. So during the search, there were the men told investigators that they had fake weapons of mass destruction, but officials found out that the weapons were actually real. So they're not fake. They just said, oh, we were making a fake bomb, but it turned out that it actually was real and could be lit. And in this particular case, it could have blown up the van, and it didn't because the fuse or something malfunctioned.
Yeah, there are some laws that provide, and I know that it's true with a gun, that if you go into a store and you have a BB gun
something
or a plastic gun that looks
yeah.
gun, they call it a facsimile of a gun.
Yeah,
that's a gun, and you can be charged with armed robbery. So I suppose if the same may be true with incendiary devices or bombs, that if it looks and smells like a bomb, for the purposes of the law, for the purposes of whether or not you committed a crime, law enforcement agencies may say, look, you've put enough fear in people's heart. If you put something underneath a media truck that has a fuse on it and a little box,
and you light it,
and people have every reason to believe that something bad's about to happen, even if it's just full of popcorn or something. That could be a bomb, and that could be something that could be charged much more seriously than what these people may have expected.
Yeah.
But it sounds like some of them actually were real bombs.
Yeah, it's one of the things, we talked earlier in the show about people who were witnesses to the Charlie Kirk murder, and some of them were journalists, some of them young journalists. We've had one on our show, Eva Terry. Actually, I think we had both, maybe Emma Pitts also. These young women are not very old, and now they're going to have those images in their head for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I think we don't talk enough about is how different professions are impacted. And I'm glad that we're having a conversation about mental health as well. We know on the Safe UT app, for example, that anybody who experienced trauma and has concerns with what happened last week, that they can call or text the Safe UT app. We also know that they have special ones for first responders, firefighters, police officers. I personally think that journalists might be on that list, right? Because they're having to report on these things, they're having to see these things, and in some cases, they're dying because of it.
Yeah, and I would also say journalists are on another list right now, and that is they're more targets.
They're targeted
of violence than they have been in the past. And I think that a lot of people, just like this Charlie Kirk case, you look at the messenger, you look at what's being said, and you blame the person, and whether it's radicalization or whatever you want to call it, and so suddenly he becomes a target. And I can see that the media is potentially, let's hope it doesn't go down that road, becoming the target of some people's responses, some anger because of items or things that are being posted on that's being reported on.
So just as of last week, 248 journalists have lost their lives reporting on one single conflict, Israel-Gaza, this year. Wow. In 8 months, almost 250 people who are journalists who have been there reporting have lost their lives, and they have been targeted, right? But there have been other ones around the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, they've been targeted by both sides. I mean, it's sad, but I mean, you think about America and thinking, well, because of the First Amendment, and because of the freedom of the press, and because of we give such great latitude to our journalists here, and other countries, let's face it, don't. I mean, you hear about Russia and China, and they shut down their journalists, but we give such latitude here. But with that comes risk.
Yeah.
With that comes the public perception that this person's writing something that's contrary to what I believe. They're inflaming public opinion about some particular thing that I don't necessarily agree with, and so let's shut down the messenger.
So when I started my blog, Holly on the Hill, that was 2008, back when blogs were cool, and people used to say to me, do you worry about saying stuff maybe against XYZ politician? And I would say no, because I believe in the First Amendment. It's not like in some other countries where if they find me, I will end up decapitated under a bridge somewhere.
Right.
And they're like, you're exaggerating. I said, I am not exaggerating. I can point to you a dozen stories where that happened in Mexico, where people were reporting or blogging on either cartels or corrupt government officials, and they ended up paying with their lives.
Yeah, and in this particular case, that brought us to the topic today with these people placing a bomb under what appears to have been a Fox 13 news truck. I mean, I can tell you that law enforcement, if I was a prosecutor, we would be taking that really seriously.
Yeah.
That would not be something that would end up at a misdemeanor level or, pay a fine and do some community service. I mean, that's the kind of crime, even though no one was hurt, where you would expect there could potentially be a prison sentence.
But there could have been.
Right. And if you look at federal law, if any of the items that were used to make up this crime traveled in interstate commerce, it could be a federal crime.
Yeah, federal. Yeah, I know. I think they're being held without bail because they're a flight risk. And so they're asking the judge to keep them here without bail.
Yeah, if they're not U.S. citizens, we don't know much about them personally. But if they don't have Utah ties, for example, they could be considered to be a flight risk, and so they'd be held without bail. But the severity of the crime, even if bail is set, it's not going to be $3. I mean, it's going to be in the tens of thousands of dollars.
So we'll have to have you follow those charging documents, and maybe you can keep us all informed when they have those full things available.
Yeah, and they will, like we saw with the Tyler Robinson case. Usually if somebody's in jail, you try to get them charged fairly quickly. This happened Friday.
72 hours, not counting the weekends.
So, yeah, we might expect that. I might even run that during this next break and let you know if something's been filed on that case.
Yeah. All right, look, this caught my eye. In the middle of all of the Charlie Kirk news over the weekend, Fox News Channel host Brian Kilmeade recently made comments advocating for the execution of mentally ill people experiencing homelessness. In what world is that okay?
Yeah,
so
what was the context?
The context was talking about how do we deal with our homeless population. So he has since apologized. It took him from Wednesday when he made the comments until Sunday, but we'll talk about that more when we come back after the break. And remember, we're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America, and we still have 3 miles of pretty much stopped traffic westbound I-80 from Kimball Junction in Summit County all the way over the summit of Parley's Canyon. That is due to a crash with a hazmat spill that has closed 3 right lanes of the freeway at the summit, only 1 left lane getting through, so it's going to take at least an hour just to go a few miles. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Dave's Bernina in Provo and St. George wants your used sewing machine. Hi, this is Cindy Olson, and for a limited time, you can save up to 25% on a new Bernina with your trade-in. Any brand at any age or condition. Featuring 48 months, no interest on certain models. Save hundreds to thousands of dollars on all new Bernina machines. And check out the new Bernina 7 Series Pro lineup and the 3 Series, some price too low to mention. Even the most advanced sewing machine in the world, the Bernina 990, is on sale. Buy 2 Bernina accessories and get 1 free when you purchase Bernina presser feet, embroidery hoops, or Bernina big books. Hurry in for amazing bargains on trade-ins and just out-of-the-box special event demo machines that come with warranties. Only at Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo, where all new machines come with free classes and a 5-year warranty. Dave'sBernina.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Summer's almost over, but the heat is pressing on. If you've got battery trouble, stop by AutoZone for free battery testing. It may just need a charge, and we'll do that for free too. If you do need a battery, we've got options starting at just $89.99, and we'll recycle your old battery for free. Now that's a strong start. Don't miss the end of summer sale. Now at AutoZone until September 22nd.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
This sandwich, it's a complete game changer. Hello, this is Mike, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Pretzel Cheddar Club is that juicy chicken with that toasty pretzel bun. That bun, it's crispy, cozy, just amazing. With the pretzel bun, the Dijon mustard, and the chicken, it makes that sweet, savory kind of combination. It's everything that you love about food rolled into one. It looks phenomenal. It tastes great. It's delicious.
Order the Pretzel Cheddar Club with Cherry Berry and Sprite for a limited time on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The Bridge Loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So last week on Wednesday morning, before the news that went around the world, Brian Kilmeade was on his show on the Fox News channel, and they were having a conversation about what to do with the homeless population, and they were specifically talking about people who were mentally ill. He finally issued an apology, but what he said was, it just shocked me. He said they should just be, if they wouldn't comply with involuntary commitment, they should just be subjected to forced lethal injection.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
What?
Oh my gosh! And
you said what?
City's co-host after that
when
came out,
when he finally
like,
realized
whoa.
what he said, right? Because you just so you get in the swing of things, and I'm sure his co-host didn't realize until after. He's like, wait, you said what?
Involuntary lethal injection.
It's crazy that we even have this conversation, and we've been talking about seeing others as not our enemies. Look, I understand they had a lot of emotion. They were talking about the August 22nd stabbing murder of Irina Zarutska on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a video of that which I have not watched and will not watch. Right, another just really awful thing you do not need in your brain, and it was somebody who was homeless and mentally ill who killed her, and so there's strong emotions, but we have to also look at. One of the things I saw Senator Amy Klobuchar say is there are 40,000 veterans in our country who are homeless. Did you just advocate killing 40,000 veterans?
Yeah, if they're not willing to change, if they're not willing to get help, what do we do? Involuntary
lethal injection. And then said just kill them.
Kill them. Oh my.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
He
exactly.
did issue an apology shortly thereafter.
And it actually happened when we were together on Wednesday, Lawrence. In the morning, we were discussing the murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion.
Good for him for saying that.
But it took multiple days for him to get to that point.
Yeah, and probably multiple calls. And like we talked about earlier, maybe even one from his employer saying
he didn't lose his job.
Yeah,
at
he
this
didn't
point,
lose
right?
his job, and which is stunning
Yeah.
because people lost their jobs for commenting about the Charlie Kirk situation and
Yeah,
criticizing
Matthew Dowd
him.
lost his job for saying that hateful rhetoric can lead to hateful actions, and that was enough for him to lose his job. Look, where do we get as a society where we can advocate on air on a national news program for involuntary lethal injection? You know what that means, right?
Yeah.
They're not signing up for lethal injection.
Right, yeah.
They're saying you're sending out death squads. That's what that
Right.
means.
You know, and I am not making a defense for him whatsoever. But if he's
But
if
here
he's-
comes the but.
But if he's got in his brain this particular killing, they're
Yeah.
talking about this,
I know.
and they're looking at this man stabbing her, and I haven't seen that video either, and I don't want to see it. But he might be thinking of that particular instance. Of course, you got to go through the whole trial.
Well, we have a death penalty
presumption of
available
innocence,
in
right?
our country.
and do it right. I mean, I'm not making excuses for him. And it was, I mean, who would even say that? I mean, it's
Yeah,
stunning
it is. And look, it comes across even differently than what we've been talking about with Tyler Robinson before we even knew it was Tyler Robinson who is now a suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk. But when you have people saying you advocate for the death penalty, even to me, that sounds different than saying just kill him, right? Involuntary lethal injection sounds very different. Very different than saying we're for the death penalty here.
Well, good for him for apologizing. It's too bad it took too long. I mean, he should have apologized before he left the studio. and
Yeah.
said, wait a minute, I'm caught up in the emotion. And you can't watch that video. And I haven't. I've just seen they stop it right before anything
Yeah.
bad happens. And you can see
It's
her
so
in this
sad. It's just
sort of
terrible.
this
Yeah, it's just
position
terrible.
of fear. That's enough to...
Well, let me tell you something I learned. My husband spent some time in Brazil, and this was not happening while he was there, but in 1990-ish, there were roving death squads for street kids, and there was an effort to clean up the streets in Brazil. And if you want to fact check me, there's multiple academic articles written on this and stories from about 1990 and a little bit earlier. And I've read some firsthand accounts. So what happened is they ended up with bounties on children's heads.
This makes me sick.
And they would go out and they would find these kids and they cleaned the streets by killing them. That's how they cleaned the streets. And I don't ever want to see this country get to the point where we are so callous we can say there's a bounty on people's heads if you go out and get this many number of homeless people, of people who are here without documentation. I don't ever want to get to that point, and I hope we never do as a country.
And I would say as a state and as a locale, we're doing just the opposite. We're talking about what to do about the homeless population.
And how
we
do you
can
treat them humanely, right? Humanly, see the humanity in them, right?
And this facility that they're thinking about building in the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City, and the fact that there are, I mean, when you go to these homeless shelters, these homeless camps, it's not uncommon, because I drive by one every day on Beck Street, to see a car that says Salt Lake County Health Department.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that are there, and it doesn't excuse their conduct or their they're living where they shouldn't be, but at least somebody's going to say, look, are you getting the health care you need?
Yeah.
Are you getting, do you need some services? Are you sick? Is there something we can be doing for you? And we actually set up a homeless court over here at the park once in a while that we have once a month, and just bring people in and say, hey, and there's booths everywhere. One of them is our booth, the legal booth, which is, what do you have warrants?
Right.
Can we clear up these warrants so you don't just get hooked up one day? And then they go to get their haircut. Then they go and they get some job service. And then they go to something that's housing, and just on and on and on.
Right.
But they don't go to the lethal injection booth. I mean, that's awful.
It's just awful. Yeah. So you are right. I think it's one of the things that we do well, and that is how you ratchet down the violence, right? You don't say things like that. You say things like, how can I serve you? How can I help you? What am I missing here? We're going to have a conversation at the end of the week with Sharon Eubank, who has, in my opinion, really well known for doing service around the world. But she said, one of the things that's the most important is what you can do in your own backyard. And it is asking people what they need and how you can help. And sometimes Sometimes they need somebody who can listen to them. Sometimes they need somebody who can help them with accessing services. Sometimes maybe jail time is appropriate, right? And that's the right thing that we're going to go to.
Right.
But sometimes, sometimes they just need a friend.
And sometimes I need to go back to a segment we talked about earlier and clear something up. So I talked about these two men, and I'm sorry to divert, but I need to for just a second, who were charged with these incendiary devices. And I'm looking at the jail booking sheet, and I'll try to be quicker because we're running out of time. But they're actually charged with 9 counts of weapon of mass destruction, first-degree felony, 3 counts of that, 4 or 5 counts of carrying an explosive device, threat of terrorism. I mean, on and on and on. No bail, obviously. This is just a probable cause statement. They haven't been charged formally yet. They're just booked into jail on this. But the law enforcement agency has filed this very lengthy probable cause statement about what we talked about. This is the Fox News truck.
Yeah.
So each of these 2 men have been booked. I keep using the word charged. Nobody's been charged. Booked in for probable cause for committing these 9 very serious crimes, including carrying an explosive device and threats of mass destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's frightening to me, and I hope we will find out the why behind that question.
Right. Well, this came right out of the blue because I saw the pictures of this. I did watch this video.
Yeah.
But there was 3 homes were destroyed after a tornado hit San Juan County this weekend. We will learn more from the National Weather Service straight ahead. Remember, you can stay with us on KSL News Radio. You can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Utah is taking steps to lead the nation in artificial intelligence, both in development and in safety.
Director of the Utah Office of AI Policy, Zach Boyd, says Utah is already leading the way in many areas, including biotech, K-12 education, and policy. Boyd also works closely with the Responsible AI Initiative and says a big goal they have is to help graduates use AI and be successful in the workforce.
He says they're aiming to make sure AI serves the needs of humans first, and he wants to create policies around that. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration says they have reached a new deal with China on the future of TikTok in the U.S.
We heard from the Treasury Secretary, though, saying that the president is expected to talk to China's President Xi at the end of this week after they finalize this and likely announce the deal at that point. We should note that the TikTok app is subject to a permanent ban in this country because of legislation that was passed last year by Congress during the Biden administration. But that was all subject to the ownership shifting to a significant U.S. stake. The president has extended that repeatedly with these 90-day extensions. That deadline now is coming up again, September 17th, in just 2 days.
That's ABC's Karen Travers reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 14 points, the S&P is up 22 points. And coming up, mostly sunny skies. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hello, Utah. I'm Josh with IWC Roofing. For over 25 years, my family has been safeguarding your homes with the finest roofing solutions. We value your time, and we're committed to replacing most roofs in just 1 day with a peace of mind 50-year shingle warranty. Call us today at 801-232-5690 or visit iwcroofingutah.com. Ask us for the $1,500 off any full roof replacement. Financing available, 801-232-5690. Utah homeowners, look no further than IWC Roofing for a roof that stands the test of time. With 25 years of excellence, IWC is your trusted family-owned roofing expert. At IWC, we offer one-day roof replacements with top-tier quality materials, all with a 50-year shingle warranty. To keep a leaky roof from dampening your day, we're offering $1,500 off a full roof replacement. Get a free estimate. Call 801-232-5690 or visit iwcroofingutah.com. 801-232-5690.
If you're 55 or older and into that whole saving money thing, T-Mobile has an exclusive phone and internet bundle just for you. Right now, get 2 unlimited phone lines plus 5G home internet for just $30 each per month with AutoPay, plus taxes and fees. And with 5G home internet, setup is easy with just one cord and no technician needed, which is great if you're also into that whole keeping it simple thing. Switch now and experience the best mobile network in the U.S. Visit your local store to start saving. T-Mobile, it's better over here.
Based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data Q4 2024 to Q1 2025, Ookla trademarks used under license. Unlimited on our network. Customers on voice plan may notice speeds lower than other customers and further reduction if using more than 50 gigs a month due to data prioritization. Video streams and SD on this plan. Home internet pricing after $20 in monthly bill credit plus $5 per line without autopay. Debit or bank account required. See 5G device coverage and access details at T-Mobile.com.
Emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Ricky Meese.
This is in Summit County, where we have a crash and hazmat spill blocking all but the far left lane of travel. This is going to be westbound on I-80. If you're traveling anywhere from Rockport and Silver Summit going westbound I-80, the delays are waiting for you at Kimball Junction as you're approaching that exit. That's about 3 to 4 miles of solid stop traffic. Only a left lane open westbound I-80 at Jeremy, just after Jeremy Ranch. It's still going to be some time before this crash is going to be cleared. If you can avoid westbound I-80 and take an alternate route, you want to do that. Otherwise, anticipate to sit in backups for a minimum of 35 to 40 minutes. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 79 today with mostly sunny skies. Tomorrow we'll see similar conditions, and from there we'll see temperatures rise back up to the 80s. Right now 72 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm looking at a photo right now, Holly, of a picture that was taken and provided by San Juan County. And I don't know if you remember the road that Forrest Gump ran down in Utah. It looks like that road.
It might be that road.
I'll bet it is that road. But at the end of the road, you don't want to take this road today, on that day that this was taken, there's this tornado, and it's just it's such a cool picture because you can see this thing coming straight out of the cloud, almost like a hand,
and it looks like straight dirt to me.
Yeah, right. And the cloud is all white and pretty. The tornado is brown, and it's causing some carnage on the ground. And we're told that it did more than that. It actually destroyed 3 homes in San Juan County this weekend.
Yeah, and we don't talk about tornadoes in Utah very often, and the only other one really that I remember talking about is the one that hit Salt Lake in 99, something like that.
That happened literally across the street.
Yeah, right,
here.
exactly.
Yeah,
right. We just don't get them here. In other places, it's like run of the mill. Yeah, got another tornado warning, right? So just looking at the pictures, it was like, wow, it did destroy homes, it did destroy livestock, and we have no reports, at least so far, of any people who were injured.
Yeah, well, let's learn more about it. We've got Scott Rosansky, warning coordinator, meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Grand Junction. Scott, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
So we don't have this happen in Utah much. Tell us what this phenomenon was about.
Yeah, I was kind of looking back at some of the data, and I was looking at some annual average number of tornadoes per state. I just kind of look back at 10, 20, 30 years. Utah gets about 2. Yeah. So not very frequent that we would see tornadoes in this area. But this was kind of interesting in the fact that we did have some cold air aloft here in September, which probably steepened the mid-level lapse rates enough where probably gave us this risk of tornadoes. But yeah, you're right. I heard you mentioning that really we don't get them much here, and some other places get them quite often. So it was an interesting event.
So can you tell us about the strength of this tornado?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do is we like to go do a site survey to kind of see where the path was, what the damage field was. And right now we're going off some photos and we're taking a look at some of the initial data as it's coming into us. And then what we'll do is eventually put out a an official report on the strength, the path, the length, the width, and all that kind of stuff. So we're still working through that data right now. As a matter of fact, I was just putting some preliminary data together here a few minutes ago, and but that report will be coming out yet this week. So still looking at some of the data to make sure we have a really good estimate on the strength of the tornado.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? How do you determine that? How can you tell? I mean, you're looking at the path, you said that, but what else do you do? How do you measure maybe wind speed or something else?
Yeah, especially in a case like this where there's not a lot of good wind equipment in that area, or not a lot of it. What we do is we actually take a look at the damage itself to like a building. One of them would be is how the building is constructed, what type of building it was. The debris field is spread quite a ways away from the original building itself. So we're taking a look at all of those things and pulling it together. And then what we do is we have like a database of events in the past and structures that were hit, and then we use those and correlate what we think was the overall strength of the tornado. So really it comes down to the structures and the photos and the assessments that we could see on site to see how the damage or how the tornado affected buildings. For instance, one of them would be, was it just a few shingles that were ripped off, or was a large part of the roof gone? And that's going to give you a different strength in a tornado.
Scott, can you tell us where this was? I'm looking at the picture here where it's the the southeast quadrant of Utah. It almost seems like it was fairly close to the Four Corners area in San Juan County here. Was it near like Monticello, or thinking of some of the towns down there? Can you tell us where it was?
Yeah, so the some of the reports that we had initially is that it was somewhere about 7 miles northeast of Montezuma Creek, and that was based off some initial reports back to the office. So that's kind of where it started, and then it was slowly moving to the northeast about 10 miles an hour, which is interesting because we did have an image or a video that showed that it was a fairly slow-moving storm.
So, Scott, I have this personal question for you. You can say no. Uh-huh. What is the worst weather you personally have ever experienced?
Ooh, gosh, the worst weather.
Weather event, I guess.
Weather event. Well, I've been through a couple tropical storms. Both of them were actually down in American Samoa. Lake effect snow in the Great Lakes is very blinding and very difficult to navigate. So I don't know. I might do that. I might say the blinding lake effect snow in Michigan.
Wow. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for talking with us today. We've been speaking with Scott Rosansky. He's the warning coordination meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and he's stationed in Grand Junction, Colorado. I wonder for you, Greg, what's the worst weather you've ever experienced?
My son and I were mountain biking in the Moab area, and I just remember it was the worst because it was frightening, but we were in a huge thunderstorm, a lightning storm came over us, and we were just exposed. And I remember, and he's a doctor at the time, but I'm thinking, what's he going to do? I mean, and I just remember, it was the only time I've really been fearful because you could see the lightning just coming down to the ground all around us. And we were mountain biking and just sitting there. And it was one of those storms that came through so quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about it. I just remember thinking, you're a bad dad today, and you took your kid out
your kid who's a doctor.
If we get zapped and nobody finds us for a couple weeks, I don't know why I was afraid of that. And I work on the ski patrol, so I've seen the worst of winter conditions, and some of those have been where you can't see your hand in front of your face and you're looking for people. But that was one that hit close to home for me for some reason.
Yeah, interesting.
What about you?
So snow, if I'm inside my house and it doesn't feel like the house is going to fall over, that's fine. I think that's great. If I'm driving in it, it's horribly terrifying. But I don't have strong, fearful memories of this. But when I was 4, Hurricane Camille hit the coast, and I think it was South Carolina. My parents at the time were actually living in a small beach house on the beach, and they had just gotten the okay to move higher up the sand, right? And so they moved us. like, I don't have memories of them picking up our belongings and moving them to this other little house that was on the beach. But I do remember going to sleep hearing pebbles hit the window as this hurricane was coming in. Now, my dad wasn't very bright, and he went out and tried body surfing in the increased waves, right? Because that seemed good. But it ended up being one of the biggest hurricanes ever to hit the United States. And when my mom went down to the beach the next day, the little house we had been in was full up to the top of water. It was like basically underwater.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I've never seen a hurricane close, but I do recall now that I'm mentioning it, same kid, same area, mountain biking with my son, and it was a dust devil that came down, but it was worse than I've ever seen, and it literally just ruined the side of his car. It was just like the wind was. We jumped in the car to get out of the storm, but you could feel the car shaking and moving, and these, like you say, it was almost like the door was getting sandblasted. That was another spooky moment.
So Be Ready Utah actually has some tips, and if you want to go there, you can see those if you're under a tornado or severe weather warning. But we know this. Don't go stand by a window. Go to the basement or a small interior room on the lowest level of your building. Stay away from windows and doors. Don't go under an overpass or a bridge. And that sometimes people used to think, do that, don't do that. And if you can't stay home, make plans to go to a public shelter.
And if you wake up in the land of Oz, tell us about your experience, and remember to follow the Yellow Brick Road.
Okay.
When we come back after the break, we're diving into one of the most talked about TED Talks, TED Talks, The Danger of a Single Story. It looks into how narratives shape our understanding of people, cultures, and even ourselves, and why in today's world this message is more relevant than ever. Stay with us.
At Peach Windows and Doors, they help homeowners stay in the homes they love while upgrading to the elegance, efficiency, and natural light of today. With hundreds of 5-star Google reviews, their clients know Peach Windows and Doors deliver what they promise.
I wanted to replace standard-size French doors with a large custom sliding door. The update required checking a weight-bearing wall. Plus, I wanted a couple of different styles of windows. The new sliding door created a much brighter and open look. Peach was so helpful along the way with recommendations and ideas, and the installers were efficient and respectful of my space. I was thrilled with Peach Windows and Doors.
Give your $1 million home the $1 million feel it deserves. Don't wait on that someday project. Visit Peach Windows and Doors Salt Lake Showroom. Schedule a free in-home visit. You can also explore at peachwindowsanddoors.com or just call them at 801-566-1255. Peach Windows and Doors, where amazing home transformations begin.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. We do have 5 miles now of solid delays westbound on I-80 due to an accident and hazmat spill just as you're approaching Summit Park. Now, only one left lane of travel is open, and that is what's causing the backups. They have closed the ramp from the Kimball Junction area to go westbound I-80, so you cannot access that ramp. If you can avoid westbound I-80 coming from Summit County into the valley, do so. Find an alternate route, and even if it's the long way around, take it. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in these delays anywhere from 45 to 55 minutes. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPave Utah, GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the end of summer sale at AutoZone. We're celebrating the end of long days and short nights with big deals for a short time. Like car wash. Right now, you can save 20% on the Armor All Complete Car Wash Kit. Need new brakes? Duralast brake pads are free with the purchase of Duralast rotors. We've also got oil deals and more. We're ending the summer right with the end of summer sale at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hi, Utah families. We all would do anything we could to boost our children's confidence and set them up for success. And Smile Zemi can help. Smile Zemi is the personalized learning tablet designed for students from kindergarten through 5th grade. Smile Zemi adapts to your child's level and learning style, delivering engaging lessons anytime, anywhere. Each lesson offers just right challenges, not too easy, not too hard, keeping learning fresh, motivating, and confidence building. Visit SmileZemi.com to learn more.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Comcast has been connecting millions nationwide with high-speed internet, TV, and mobile services since 1963. Along with delivering reliable technology, they're dedicated to closing the digital divide and expanding access across Utah. External Affairs Director Deneva Knight joins us with more.
At Comcast, investing in Utah's workforce is more than a strategy, it's a responsibility. We know a strong economy depends on a skilled and empowered workforce, so we partner with nonprofits, economic development groups, and community leaders to close skill gaps and expand internet access. Our mission is simple: equip more Utahns with digital skills they need, whether they're changing careers, starting out, or upskilling. Through local partnerships, we fund job training programs, we provide resources to make tech a tool for opportunity. Comcast Rise takes it further by supporting Utah small business owners with grants, marketing, and tech upgrades, fueling innovation and job growth. Over the past 3 years, we've contributed $5.3 million in cash and in-kind support to 80 local Utah organizations, including Prague Development Center and Neighborhood House, helping expand access through Internet Essentials and List Zones. Utah's workforce drives our commitment, and you can learn more at utah.comcast.com.
Comcast Business is deeply committed to Utah by expanding internet access and empowering local small businesses with digital tools, grants, and strong community partnerships. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources.
So, confession time here. I said we're, yes, seriously. I learned more from you than I did in 12 years of schooling. But I said we're leaning into one of our most talked about TED Talks, TED, without having a clue what a TED Talk is. And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I've never even heard of it. TED? TED?
I do not know how you are so sheltered. So remember, to our listening
I've been
audience,
practicing law. We don't do TED Talks.
He didn't know what a dad joke was either.
Yeah, that's true.
So look, a TED Talk the TED actually stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and it's a series of talks that people can do. The TED is the national platform, and you can have TEDx, and if it has an X behind it, it is one of like the local ones. You can have TEDx Salt Lake or TEDx Bountiful or TEDx American Fork, right? And so you can have local organizers who put those together. I've given 2 TEDx talks. They live on my website because it's something I'm really proud of, right? It's literally something people put on their bucket list. I want to give a TED Talk one time, right?
I definitely want to. So how does you give it, and it's like on...
It lives on YouTube forever, and
YouTube.
Sometimes you get a lot of views. Certainly the one we're going to talk about it's one of the most viewed TED Talks ever, if it's not the most. And sometimes you get a few hundred, right? Because your friends and family will look at it. But it really is a collection and ability for people to speak. And sometimes there is an overall general topic for every speaker for that time, and sometimes there's not. But In this particular case, we're going to talk about one that is called "The Danger of a Single Story," and it's by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I have to set up a background just a little bit. So this, I was introduced to this TED Talk when I was a student at UVU. Actually, I was an undergrad there getting my bachelor's degree in 2014, 2015. So it was in that time frame where I heard this talk, and I was so struck by it that I have used it multiple times. I used it in my PhD dissertation. I've used it when I've taught classes to college students because it is so important to think about it. And she starts this way. She's from Nigeria. So she starts telling people that she grew up, she was an early reader. She grew up reading books, but the books that she was reading came from England. And in England, everybody eats apples, has blonde hair, blue eyes, right? And they like to talk about the weather. And she said, we don't talk about the weather because it's always sunny here. And we don't have blonde hair or blue eyes, and we eat mango. We've never had an apple, right? But she said all of the stories she wrote had these children who ate apples and talked about the snow. And then she really starts to lay out what happens when we only look at one side of the story.
Stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity.
So what she was talking about, the title to her TED Talk was "The Danger of a Single Story."
Right. So, and you could look at it a different way and call it "The Danger of a Single Viewpoint."
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm thinking.
That there's
yes.
only one way to look at things. And so the reason I think it's so powerful, and sometimes she says in her TED Talk, it's not that the single story is always wrong, it's that it's incomplete. Right? So eventually she would come to the United States as a student, and her American roommate, when she heard that she had a roommate coming from Africa, thought that she didn't know how to use a stove. But she was middle to upper class in Nigeria. They actually had people who worked in their home for them, and her father was a university professor, if I remember correctly, right? So she had a very different level, but her American roommate, thinking about what happens in Africa, thought, well, she doesn't even know how to turn on a stove. That's one of the problems, right? So you flatten a person or an entire group of people because you say that group or they, and that's what we're seeing right now in the national dialogue.
Yes.
They did, they said, right? And people are complex, but there's a lot more to all of us than just one thing. Right? There's a lot more than just flattening us to, well, Holly, you are a white woman who lives in Utah, and, therefore I'm going to make these following assumptions about you.
Right. That's interesting. So what the significance of it, this was in 1977, was it today?
No. So today, 1977 is the day she was born. Today is her birthday.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so it turned out just perfectly that it showed up in my fun facts of the day.
There you
that
go.
Today is her birthday. The danger of a single story. It's one of the things I love to talk about the most, just because it is so important to say, what story am I missing? What perspective am I missing here? And it can be talking about policies and politics. It can be talking about, what happens on college campuses. What am I missing?
How do you find out about TED Talks? I mean, really,
if you do one quick Google search, you will have more than you can ever imagine.
Of TED Talks, TED.
TED. So YouTube, right? They're all over YouTube. And you can, if you want to focus on a specific area of the country, you can focus on that.
Yeah.
You can focus on a topic. There's a number of different things.
And hers was viewed 40 million times?
Right now, 40 million. So I also have a few other fun facts for the day. So today is National Online Learning Day. And that means, of course, just what it sounds like. We did that big in the pandemic, but I was doing that before the pandemic hit down with Southern Utah University. I didn't attend the campus. I didn't step foot on the campus until I went for my graduation. So that's great. I love online learning. On this day in 1928, while conducting experiments on a strain of influenza, Alexander Fleming accidentally discovered penicillin. So do you remember that story?
No.
So he left, either for the weekend or go on vacation or something, and he has these little Petri dishes, and he comes back, And he sees that this bacteria it didn't spread in this one dish, and it turned out to be penicillin that was growing on a piece of bread. It was a mold. Penicillin comes from mold, right? And that was on this day he discovered that back in 1928, almost 100 years ago.
That changed
penicillin,
so much.
Literally life-changing. Yeah,
right, yeah.
Because in wartime,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You could die. You may not die of your gunshot wound or your bayonet wound, but you would for sure die of sepsis.
Die from the
from infection. Yeah. And then this is a sad one. So sorry, but on this day in 1963, 4 little black schoolgirls were killed in a Birmingham, Alabama church bombing. So
what year?
1963. So that was about a year before JFK was assassinated, and then 5 years before MLK and RFK were assassinated.
I think I remember that. That was tragic, and I think that they've written some stories and
and some movies and stuff
about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So look, let me just reiterate again: the stories can break the dignity of a people, but they can also repair that dignity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I'm going to look that up, and there will be 40,000,001 viewers.
40,000,001
by 5:00 tonight.
Yeah. It really is good. I made my husband listen last night too. So
yeah, say the name again. Chimamanda
Ngozi Adichie. I had to practice that actually, to be honest.
All right, and a TED Talk. And so
called The Dangers of a Single Story.
I know we're out of time, but if I want to give a TED Talk,
then you start to at least put feelers out or start looking. So I see it advertised on social media, which you don't use. That's a problem. But I see it advertised like Salt Lake City is saying, Salt Lake City TEDx is looking for people to apply for the coming year.
I see. And
or
like
LinkedIn.
7 minutes, you say?
You give a talk. They'll give you a time frame. It's somewhere in the 7 to 9 minute range. I think for me, mine were a little longer.